Let's dive into the story. Chapter 1 Kuo Town. Early morning. Issei woke with a startled gasp, the echo of a dream still fresh in his mind. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest. An unending sky, dyed in vivid crimson, stretched on forever. And somewhere in that endless expanse, a low, resonating growl sounded impossibly huge, terrifying, yet strangely comforting. Beneath that roar, there was a soft hiss, like a whisper of wind through pitch-black space. He snapped upright in bed, sweat beading on his forehead. Despite the fear, something about that dream felt familiar. He let out a shaky breath, trying to calm himself. Again, he muttered. That same sky, that same voice. His alarm buzzed, snapping him out of his daze. Issei shook off the lingering nightmares and pushed himself from bed. On the surface, he was just a 17-year-old high schooler. Adopted, or so he thought, no real knowledge of his birth parents. But the last few months, these visions had gotten more vivid. Time to get moving, he told himself. I can't be late to school, not on my first day back at Kuo. He'd transferred to Kuo Academy at the start of the semester for reasons he didn't quite understand. Something about this place felt like a magnet pulling him in. Maybe it was the reputation of the academy, once an all-girls school, now co-ed with rumored beautiful seniors. Maybe it was just fate. Standing in front of the mirror, he noticed again that faint swirl of a strange crest on his shoulder. It vanished if he squinted directly at it, but in his peripheral vision, the shape looked like a swirling dragon crest, red outlined in black. Weird, he whispered, shaking his head. He quickly got dressed in Kuo's uniform, straightened his tie, and headed out the door. Outside Kuo Academy morning, stepping onto campus felt almost surreal. The old school building, rumored to be used by the Occult Research Club, loomed in the distance. A scattering of students, mostly girls, cast curious glances at the new, and surprisingly good-looking, boy. Issei wasn't your typical scrawny teen. He was fit, carried himself with an easy confidence, and had that roguish edge that drew attention. Yo, Issei. A classmate, Matsuda or Motohama, he never kept them straight, waved from across the courtyard. They were self-proclaimed perverts, but Issei gave them a polite wave rather than the grin they expected. He wasn't big on that obsessive peeping they bragged about. He had other things on his mind. As Issei headed inside, he caught a glimpse of someone near the second-floor window. A crimson-haired girl looking down at him. Their eyes met for a fleeting second. She had an almost regal beauty, hair as red as that sky in my dreams, he thought suddenly, heart giving a faint lurch. He couldn't place why, but the way she looked at him, like she recognized something within him, gave him goosebumps. He brushed it off and continued to his homeroom, ignoring the flutter in his chest. Classroom 2B homeroom. Issei introduced himself at the front of the class. A smattering of polite applause followed. He scanned the room, noticing mostly familiar faces from around campus, though many whispered or giggled about him. Hyodo Issei, the teacher, Kate-sensei, repeated. Take a seat by the window, we're glad to have you. He walked over to the open seat, trying not to draw more attention than necessary. As he sat, he felt a faint prickle at the back of his neck, like someone was watching him. He turned, catching another pair of eyes on him. A petite white-haired girl, sitting near the back. She wore the same uniform, arms folded, expression unreadable. She's cute, he acknowledged, then offered a small smile. She didn't smile back. Instead, she gave a slight nod, as if acknowledging a curiosity, then looked away. Issei shrugged inwardly. The period passed in a blur. Most of the teachers droning on about class expectations didn't register. Issei's mind kept flickering back to the dream, to the crest on his shoulder, to the presence of that red-haired girl and this white-haired girl. Something about Kuo already felt supernatural. Lunchtime courtyard. A swirl of conversation, bustling students, and the fresh midday sun greeted him as he found a spot under a tree. Just as Issei bit into a sandwich, the sudden presence of someone standing over him made him glance up. Excuse me, the voice was quiet, delicate. He followed the voice up to a gentle face framed by short blonde hair and bright green eyes. She wore the same Kuo uniform, though she seemed a bit timid. My name's Asia Argento, she said with a shy smile. I just saw you sitting alone and thought I'd introduce myself. I'm new too, in a way. Hyodo Issei, he answered, returning the smile. Good to meet you. Want to join me? She nodded, carefully settling down beside him. They chatted lightly, Asia's innocence shining through every word. She seemed so pure, almost naive, in a place full of teenage chaos. So, you came to Kuo recently as well? She ventured. Yeah, Issei replied. Something about the town drew me in, I guess. He left it at that, not wanting to divulge the weird dreams or the random surges of physical power he'd noticed in the past year. Asia didn't press, she seemed relieved just to have someone friendly to talk to. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden hush that fell over the courtyard. Two girls walked by. One with crimson hair, her, and another with long raven hair tied in a ponytail. Students parted respectfully as if these two were royalty. Asia glanced at Issei. They're very popular, Asia whispered, awe-coloring her tone. Yeah, Issei said slowly, eyes on the crimson-haired one. She briefly looked in his direction, then turned away with a faint smile. There was a magnetic aura about them. Something beyond mere popularity. Issei's instincts hummed, an echo of the draconic roar in his dream. After school, old school building classes ended without incident, though Issei's mind whirled with questions. He found himself wandering behind the main campus, near the old school building rumored to be used by a special club. He'd heard rumors. The occult research club, run by Rias Gremory, an elite figure for reasons no one quite spelled out. Why am I so drawn here? He approached a large wooden door. As he lifted a hand to knock, the door swung open. Standing inside was the petite white-haired girl from class. She stared at him a moment, expression impassive. You shouldn't be here, she said calmly, though there was a question in her golden eyes. Sorry, he replied. I just felt like checking this place out. My feet kind of brought me here on their own. She studied him, then stepped aside. Rias Bucko might want to meet you. Issei blinked, stepping into a dimly lit corridor. The air tingled with a faint presence like static electricity dancing along his skin. They reached a lounge area where a large sofa, a desk, and a few chairs were arranged. And there she was, seated with an elegant poise, the crimson-haired girl from earlier. Another girl with long black hair, Akeno Himejima, if rumors served, stood behind her, wearing an amused smile. Welcome, Hyodo Issei, the crimson-haired one greeted, voice carrying a refined confidence. I'm Rias Gremory. I've been expecting you. His brow rose. You know me? Let's just say I've heard rumors of a transfer student with a unique presence, Rias answered, eyes narrowing slightly. Your aura, it's different. Issei couldn't deny the strange flutter in his stomach. I'm not sure what that means. Akino's smile widened. Aren't you a direct one? Most boys can't even speak straight when they meet Rias Bucko. Rias waved off Akino's teasing. Tell me, Issei. Have you ever experienced anything out of the ordinary? Strange incidents? Surges of power? He froze. Her words hit too close to home. But some instinct told him not to reveal everything. Why do you ask? A faint sigh. Because Kuo is no ordinary town, she said, standing up. And I have a suspicion you might not be an ordinary person, either. Issei felt the air grow heavy. Kaneko, he now recalled her name, watched him with guarded curiosity. Akino's gaze flickered with interest. Rias's expression remained composed, though something told him she was cautious. If you ever need guidance, Rias continued, come to me. I'll be here. Just remember that this place is. The door to the clubroom flew open abruptly. A frantic figure, Kiba Yuto, another known member of the occult research club, burst in, face drawn. Rias Bucko. There's trouble at the park. I sensed fallen angel energy. Fallen angels? The term sent a jolt through Issei, though he didn't know why. Rias's calm demeanor shifted to tension. Kiba, Akeno, Kaneko, you're with me, she ordered, then looked at Issei with a hint of conflict. Stay here, Issei. This might be dangerous. Issei almost laughed, surprising himself with the surge of adrenaline. Something in him wanted to go. He hardly knew these people, but his gut said, this is your fight, too. I'll come, he said, voice firm. I can help. Kaneko looked at Rias, who hesitated, then finally nodded. All right. Stay close, and don't do anything reckless. Kuo Park, late afternoon. They arrived at the quiet park to find chaos. A tall man with wild white hair and priest garb cackled as he swung a sword that sparked with holy energy. A battered figure lay behind him, someone Issei recognized with horror. "Asia!" he cried. She was on the ground, trembling, tears streaking her face. The mad priest had a twisted grin, the glint of madness in his eyes. "Hee, more devils to slice up," he crowed, brandishing his sword. "Oh, Fried loves nothing more than carving up you freaks." Rias's aura flared, a wave of red energy swirling around her. "Fried Selzen, a stray exorcist. You have no business here." Fried laughed. "No business? I came here to do the Lord's work, kill devils, kill anything unholy. Maybe I'll have a little fun with that cutie behind you." Issei's blood boiled. An unfamiliar anger rose in him, protective, draconic in its intensity. He stepped forward before Rias could react, fists clenching. "Leave Asia alone," he growled, voice low. Fried cocked his head. "Oh, a human defending devils? Or, what are you?" That question echoed in Issei's mind. What was he? He shrugged it off, focusing on the immediate threat. Asia was hurt, he could see the slight bruises and the tears in her eyes. Akeno summoned lightning in her palms, eyes narrowed. "We'll handle Fried. Issei, get Asia to safety." But Fried lunged at Issei, sword aimed straight for his chest. Issei had no time to think, he acted on pure instinct. He sidestepped the slash, surprising Fried with swift agility. Then, in a blur of movement, he drove a punch into the exorcist's gut. Crack! The force of the blow sent Fried skidding backward, coughing in pain. "The hell?" Fried gasped. "That's not normal. A devil's pet project?" Rias blinked in surprise, evidently not expecting Issei to move so fast. Kiba brandished his sword, stepping in to corner Fried. "You saw that too?" Akeno whispered to Rias. "He's strong, like, really strong." Rias nodded, expression guarded. "Yes. I saw." Fried, snarling, activated a light gun in his other hand and fired at Issei. Adrenaline spiked through him. He felt an odd warmth, like a flicker of red energy shimmering at his back. He twisted his body, dodging the blasts with inhuman grace. "Stay away from Asia," he roared, feeling a faint ring in his ears. Fried's eyes glimmered with confusion and something like fear. "He's scared? Of me?" Issei thought. Without missing a beat, Fried spun on his heel, tossing a small smoke bomb. In the haze, he scrambled to retreat, cackling about, reporting this to the big boss. A tense silence followed as the smoke cleared. Rias's power still crackled in the air, but Fried was gone. Akeno looked disappointed. Kiba held his sword, scanning for any sign of Fried's presence. Meanwhile, Issei rushed to Asia's side. She stared up at him, relief and worry in her eyes. I'm sorry," she whispered. "He came out of nowhere, talking about purging devils and those who help them." Issei gently checked her for wounds. "Don't be sorry. Are you hurt anywhere else?" She shook her head, though tears brimmed. "No, just scared." A wave of protectiveness crashed over him. He wanted to hold her, comfort her, let her know everything was going to be fine. Before he could speak, Rias knelt beside Asia. "Asia, right? Come with us. We'll keep you safe." Asia swallowed hard, glimpsing the same kindness in Rias that she had in Issei. She nodded. Kiba carefully helped her to her feet. Issei noticed Kaneko watching him with those golden eyes, a thoughtful tilt to her head. She seemed to be analyzing every move he made. Akeno approached, smiling softly. "Issei, that was heroic," she said in a low, almost teasing voice. "You move faster than some devils I know." He tried to chuckle but felt too keyed up. "I just didn't want Fried to hurt Asia." Rias laid a hand on Issei's shoulder, her crimson hair catching the fading sunlight. "Let's take Asia back to our clubhouse. We'll talk there." "Yeah," Issei said, glancing once more at the empty space Fried had occupied. "Let's go." Occult Research Club room, early evening. The atmosphere felt heavier in the old building now. Asia sat on a couch, and Akeno tended to her scrapes with surprising gentleness. Kiba stood by, still on guard. Rias paced back and forth, a hand to her chin. Kaneko hovered in the corner, chewing on a small snack bar while observing quietly. Issei leaned against the wall, arms folded, trying to sort through the tumult of emotions in his chest. Part of him was rattled by the fight with Fried, but another part of him felt invigorated, like he'd just scratched the surface of something vast. Rias finally broke the silence. Fallen angels and stray exorcists roaming around Kuo is never a good sign. Usually, they keep a low profile, especially near my territory. Your territory? Issei repeated, voice thick with questions. She glanced at him, uncertain for a moment, then exhaled. Yes. I suppose it's time we talked more openly. I'm a devil. A high-class devil, to be precise. This town is under my protection. Issei stared, mind whirling. A dozen thoughts flitted by somehow, it made sense. The strange aura, the power, the way Fried referred to them as devils. But to hear it spelled out so directly felt surreal. He glanced around. Kiba, Akeno, Kaneko, they all looked calm, as if this was old news. So, that means you all are devils, yes, Akeno said sweetly, giving him a small bow. It's nice to officially meet you under these circumstances. Kaneko gave a tiny nod. I'm a rook. That's my position in Rias Buckow's peerage. Kiba offered a polite smile. I'm her knight. Issei rubbed his temples, the pieces clicking into place. All of you. Devils. And Fried was an exorcist gone rogue, he must hate devils. Precisely, Rias said. Fallen angels are a separate faction. They don't always get along with us. Some are more extreme than others. Asia looked up timidly. Thank you, everyone. If you hadn't come, Fried might have. She trailed off, hugging her knees. Hey, Issei said, crouching beside her, you're safe now. She nodded, wiping away a tear. I'm glad you were there. Akeno cleared her throat. Rias Bucko, about Asia's situation. She's human and apparently targeted by Fallen. Are we going to? Rias's expression softened as she turned to Asia. I can offer you protection, but I need to know why they targeted you. Asia fidgeted with the hem of her skirt, hesitating. I used to be affiliated with the church. But they excommunicated me for using a sacred gear they considered a heresy. My twilight healing can heal devils and fallen angels, which the church deemed unholy. The room fell silent. Rias nodded slowly. A sacred gear that heals devils. That must be why Fried and the Fallen want you either to use or dispose of you. Issei felt a surge of anger at the idea of Asia being cast out just for having a special power. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We won't let them hurt you. Rias gave Issei a long look. She seemed both intrigued and oddly grateful for his protectiveness. Indeed, she added, we'll keep you safe, Asia. An unspoken question lingered in the air. What about Issei? He wasn't a devil, yet he fought Fried with ease. Could he be a sacred gear wielder? But something told Rias it was more than that. A question for you, Issei, she said quietly. Fried is a skilled exorcist, even if he's insane. Most humans would be cut down before they could blink. Yet you dodged his strikes and overpowered him in a single hit. Are you a sacred gear user? He hesitated, recalling that swirling red crest, his dreams, the strange roars in his ears. I'm not sure, he admitted. I don't think so. I've never summoned anything like a gear. I just felt like I needed to protect Asia, and my body moved on its own. Rias exchanged a glance with Akeno, who raised her eyebrows in curiosity. Kaneko munched on her snack, eyes never leaving Issei's face. Kiba remained silent but looked equally perplexed. We'll figure it out, Rias decided. For now, you and Asia should stay close to the Occult Research Club. The Fallen Angels and Fried might target you again. Issei didn't like the idea of being babysat, but he understood her concern. Asia nodded timidly, relief flooding her face. Then Rias's tone shifted. And Issei, there's another matter. If Fried or other stray agents come after you, they won't hold back. The best protection might be for you to become one of us. A devil? He asked, blinking. If you join my peerage, you'll gain powers and our official protection, Rias explained. But that's a choice only you can make. The offer hung in the air. He thought of Asia's vulnerability, Fried's mad grin, the unknown dream chasing him every night. Becoming a devil seemed extreme. Yet these people devils or not had saved Asia. They were offering him a place. I'll think about it, he said at last, voice steady, but I'm not ready to jump in yet. Rias nodded. Fair enough. The door is always open. For now, Issei thought, I just want to keep Asia safe, and find out what the hell is happening to me. Issei's apartment. Later that night, Issei and Asia walked home together, the sky already dark. Crickets chirped in the bushes. Asia clutched her small purse, glancing around anxiously. Are you sure it's okay if I stay with you for a while? She asked hesitantly. He offered a reassuring smile. Yeah, no problem. Safer than you trying to sleep on a church pew alone, right? Right. Thank you, she murmured. You're so kind, Issei. He felt a slight blush creeping up. He was far from kind. In his own eyes he barely understood himself these days. But Asia's earnest gratitude made his chest warm. When they reached his modest apartment, Issei set out a futon in the living room for Asia. She looked around with wide eyes, as if enthralled by the simple space. This is nice, she said quietly, sitting down on the futon. Issei scratched his cheek. It's just me here, so it might be lonely. That's better than being alone in a church where you're not wanted. Asia's voice trembled slightly. Then she looked at him and bowed her head. I'm really grateful, you know. He settled cross-legged on the floor across from her, meeting her gaze. Asia, no more of that. It's not a burden to help someone who's done nothing wrong. Her eyes sparkled with tears. She leaned forward and, to his surprise, pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. Thank you, she whispered, face flushing pink as she pulled back. Issei's heart thudded. He wasn't used to such innocent sincerity. Sure, he'd flirted with a few girls before, but Asia's sweetness was disarming. He began, awkward. No problem. A small laugh escaped her. She nestled down into the futon, still dressed in her day clothes but too tired to change. Good night, Issei, she said softly. Night, Asia. He stood, flicking off the lights. Crawling into his own bed, he stared at the ceiling, mind buzzing. Freed. Devils. Fallen angels. And that offer to become a devil. His eyes drifted shut. Just before sleep claimed him, he felt that stirring in his soul again, a faint thrumming, as if two mighty forces lurked within him. The same crimson sky from his dreams enveloped him in thought. Who am I, really? Dreamscape night once again. Issei found himself in that endless red expanse. Clouds of swirling crimson parted around a gigantic silhouette, a dragon. Impossibly large, its body coiling through the sky. In the distance, a figure draped in shadow, feminine in form, eyes like starless voids. They seemed to be calling him, or waiting for him. He reached out, voice lost in the roar of the wind. Then something changed. The dragon roared, a tremor of power so intense it shook the dream itself. The woman hissed words he couldn't decipher, but they vibrated with longing, anger. As the dream began to collapse, Issei heard a soft voice, almost maternal, whisper. Child of dragons, awaken. The next morning, Issei's apartment. He jolted upright, heart hammering. The first rays of sunlight streamed through the window. Asia was stirring on the futon in the living room, mumbling softly. He rubbed his face, trying to dispel the lingering remnants of that dream. Child of dragons, he echoed under his breath. What does that even mean? Whatever it was, it terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. His chest felt heavy with a power he couldn't explain, but he sensed it was only the beginning of something far bigger than devils and fallen angels in Kuo. Issei? Asia called softly, peeking from the living room. Everything okay? He forced a smile. Yeah, just another weird dream. She looked concerned but didn't pry. He stood up, stretching. Let's get you ready for school. Rias is probably expecting us at the occult club after classes. Right, Asia agreed, nodding shyly. As he got dressed, Issei glanced at the faint crest on his shoulder again. It pulsed, as though it had a heartbeat of its own. For the first time, he didn't feel fear, he felt anticipation. Walking to Kuo Academy mid-morning, the school day began as usual, but tension lingered in the corners. He could see it in the eyes of the occult club members in the hallway. They were on guard for any stray exorcist or fallen angel threat. Asia stayed close to him, timidly holding onto his sleeve. They hadn't even reached the lockers when a voice cut through the crowd. Issei Hyodo. You've got a moment? He turned to see a tall, bespectacled girl with short black hair, Sona Citri, the student council president, if he recalled correctly. She eyed him shrewdly, her vice president Tsubaki Shinra by her side. Yeah? Sona glanced at Asia. Then back to Issei. I understand you had a run-in with a stray exorcist yesterday. Care to elaborate? Her tone was calm, but Issei sensed an undercurrent of authority, maybe even worry. He remembered that Rias had mentioned Sona. She, too, was a devil, a high-class devil and Rias's friend, rival. I helped Rias's group defend against Fried Selzen, he answered carefully. Not sure what else I can say. Sona's gaze flicked over him, as if analyzing his aura. You're not a devil, or a fallen. Yet you fought Fried. Interesting. He bristled slightly, not liking the interrogation, but kept his voice level. You can ask Rias if you want the details. An appraising nod. I plan to, Sona said evenly. Then, with a soft sigh, she softened her voice. Just, be careful. Kuo is our territory, and Fried is dangerous. We don't want innocents caught in the crossfire. We'll be careful, Asia offered, bowing politely. Thank you, Student Council President. Sona's gaze flicked to Asia's gentle expression, and something like understanding flashed across her face. See that you are. As Sona and Tsubaki walked away, Issei exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. It felt like the entire town was made up of devils and supernatural watchers. They're devils too? Asia asked quietly. He nodded. Seems like it. Let's just say this place isn't your ordinary high school. Lunchtime school rooftop. The day's classes were uneventful, but Issei's mind was anything but settled. He and Asia had sought a quiet spot on the rooftop to avoid the throng of students and to keep an eye out for trouble. She unwrapped a simple homemade lunch, offering half to him. I made too much, she confessed, eyes bright. Want some? He smiled. Sure. Thanks, Asia. They ate in companionable silence for a while. Eventually, Asia asked the question that had been on her mind since last night. Issei, about your powers. Do you really not know where they come from? He stared at the city skyline. Not a clue. For as long as I can remember, I've had these surges of strength and speed. It got stronger this past year. And then these dreams started, with a giant red sky. He paused, scanning her face to see if she thought he was crazy. Instead, she looked worried. Do you think it's a sacred gear, like me? I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything like a gear. It's more like an internal force, a presence. I can't really explain it. Asia nodded, trying to understand. Whatever it is, it helped save me. I'm grateful for that. Issei chuckled softly. You're too nice, but thanks. Suddenly, he felt an odd prickle at the base of his neck. He glanced around, half expecting Fried to leap out of the shadows. But no, there was no sign of him. Instead, at the edge of the roof stood the white-haired girl, Kaneko. She was staring at them, seemingly bored, but her posture said otherwise. Rias Bucko wants to see you guys, she said flatly. Meet in the clubroom after school. Issei gave a short nod. Kaneko lingered, her gaze drifting over him like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Then she turned and left as quietly as she'd arrived. What do you think she wants now? Asia asked softly. No idea, Issei admitted. But if Fried's still roaming around, maybe we're planning a response. Asia shivered at Fried's name, and Issei couldn't blame her. He reached out, covering her hand with his. Hey, we'll handle it, he said with a comforting smile. Her cheeks colored slightly at his touch, but she smiled back. Right. Occult Research Club after classes. The moment Issei and Asia stepped into the clubroom, Rias waved them over. The atmosphere was more tense than before. Akeno was sifting through papers, Kiba inspected a sword leaning by the wall, and Kaneko stood near a tray of snacks. I've just received word, Rias began without preamble, that Fried and another fallen angel are active near the abandoned church. We suspect they might be targeting Asia specifically. Asia's face went pale. Rias continued, her tone firm. This means we have to move carefully. We can't let them make Kuo a battleground. Asia, since you're human, you'll be safest here or with Issei. Kiba, Akeno, and Kaneko will scout the church. Issei frowned. What about me? Rias studied him. I'd prefer you not risk another confrontation. But I also suspect Fried is interested in you, just as much as Asia. We don't need you getting captured or used as bait. He gritted his teeth. So you want me to hide? Her eyes flashed. I want you safe, Issei. You're not part of my peerage, you haven't trained with us. But I'm strong enough to fight Fried again, he interrupted, frustration rising. And Asia doesn't feel safe without me. Akano placed a calming hand on Rias's shoulder. Bucko, maybe he can stay on standby with Asia. If Fried tries something, he can at least hold him off until we arrive. Rias hesitated, then sighed, eyes flicking to Asia's trembling form. All right. Stay close to the club if you sense danger. Kaneko will accompany you. Me? Kaneko asked in her soft monotone. Yes. You keep an eye on Fried's movements while also watching Issei and Asia. Understood? Kaneko nodded. Then that's settled, Rias declared. We'll do a recon mission. If Fried or any Fallen tries something, we'll respond immediately. Issei tried not to let his annoyance show. He didn't like feeling like a sidekick. But one look at Asia's relieved expression made him swallow his pride. Fine. We'll be careful, he muttered. Rias met his gaze with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Thank you. And Issei, she paused, opening her mouth as if to say something more personal, then she shook her head. Just don't do anything reckless. Evening streets of Kuo with Kaneko trailing silently behind, Issei and Asia walked through the quieter side of town, heading toward his apartment. The plan was to keep Asia under watch overnight. Tomorrow, they'd gather more intel. Kaneko, Issei ventured, glancing over his shoulder, thanks for watching our backs. The petite girl said nothing at first, then quietly replied, it's my job. Rias Bucko wants to protect you both. Fried is insane, and fallen angels can be cruel. Issei nodded. He appreciated her blunt honesty. They were about a block from his building when a chill coursed down his spine. He froze, scanning the shadows under a flickering streetlight. Something's there, he muttered. Kaneko's eyes narrowed. Yeah, I feel it too. Asia clung to Issei, her fear evident. Then, stepping out from the darkness, came a figure draped in dark feathers, a fallen angel. She was tall, with black wings folded behind her. Her gaze was predatory, lips curved in a knowing smile. My, if it isn't the adorable little ex-nun, the woman cooed, eyes sliding to Asia. And that curious boy. Issei's fists clenched. Who are you? Call me Rainare, the fallen angel purred. I've heard quite a bit about you. Issei Hyodo. Fried was babbling on about some human with monstrous strength. A cruel smirk lit her face. I'd like to see that power for myself. Kaneko moved in front of Asia. Stay back, this one's dangerous. Rainare extended a glowing spear of light, leveling it at Issei's chest. Why so tense? Don't you want to know more about your abilities? He grit his teeth. As if I'd trust anything from you. Asia let out a small cry, remembering Fried's brutality, and Issei's protective instincts flared. He locked eyes with Rainare. If you hurt Asia, all. Rainare laughed, voice dripping with disdain. A mere human, making threats, adorable. Before Kaneko could attack, Rainare darted forward with supernatural speed. Issei raised an arm instinctively, feeling that internal blaze ignite. Her spear of light clashed against a sudden swirl of energy around his forearm. It wasn't a physical shield, more like raw power emanating from him. Interesting, Rainare mused, eyes gleaming with excitement. Such raw draconic energy, oh, you are special. Issei's heart hammered. Draconic? He pushed back, forcing Rainare to retreat a step, but she merely circled him, wingbeats stirring the air. Kaneko sprang into action, fists coated in demonic power. She aimed a punishing blow at Rainare's side, but Rainare deflected it with her spear, sending Kaneko stumbling. Stay out of this, little kitten, Rainare sneered. Kaneko hissed, rolling back to her feet gracefully. She's fast, Issei realized. Kaneko is no slouch, but Rainare's outmaneuvering her. He glanced at Asia, who watched in horror, tears pooling at the corners of her eyes. He had to do something. Summoning that fiery sensation, Issei launched forward. He aimed a punch at Rainare, the force behind it massive. She barely managed to block, and even then, she winced. Yes, she exclaimed, almost delirious with excitement. That's the power I want to see. She retaliated with a sweep of her light spear, forcing him to duck. The spear grazed his cheek, leaving a sizzling burn that made him hiss in pain. Issei, Asia cried. I'm fine, he ground out, ignoring the sting. Kaneko attempted another strike, but Rainare snapped her wings, blasting them with a gust of dark feathers that glowed ominously. Kaneko shielded her face, buying Reynare a precious second. Reynare capitalized, hurling a volley of light knives at Asia. Issei's eyes went wide. She was targeting Asia directly. Without a second thought, he dove in front of her, arms spread. A rush of hot energy filled his veins, and the knives of light disintegrated mere inches from him, as if burned away by some unseen flame. His entire body glowed faintly with a red-black aura. Impossible, Reynare muttered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. Issei didn't wait for her to recover. He dashed forward and delivered a powerful kick that connected with her abdomen. She choked, staggering back several paces. Another blow from Kaneko came from the side, slamming into Reynare's ribs. "You little pests," Reynare snarled, spitting blood. She spread her wings, lifting into the air. "This isn't over. I need to report to the others about you." Then, with a powerful flap, she vanished into the night. Aftermath Street corner. Issei panted, the red-black aura fading from his skin. Asia rushed up to him, eyes brimming with concern. "Why your cheek? You're hurt." He touched the burn, wincing. "It's not too deep." Kaneko stared at him, ears twitching slightly. "That power you used, that's not normal." Issei gave a half-hearted laugh. "Nothing about me is normal these days." Asia's hands glowed softly. "Let me try," she murmured, placing them gently on Issei's cheek. Twilight Healing's warmth spread across his skin, the burn easing. He closed his eyes, sighing with relief as the pain dulled. "Thanks, Asia." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I was so scared. She was trying to kill me, but you stood in the way, again." Issei cupped her chin gently, brushing away her tears. "I wasn't about to let you get hurt." A flicker of an unexpected emotion flashed in Asia's gaze. Admiration, maybe more. She looked ready to speak, but Kaneko cleared her throat. "We need to inform Rias Bucko," she said plainly. "Reynare could come back any time, possibly with reinforcements." Issei nodded, jaw tight. "Let's go. I'm done letting these creeps roam free." As they hurried toward the occult club, Issei couldn't help but dwell on that single word Reynare used: draconic. It echoed the dream, the swirling red sky, and that enormous dragon silhouette. Somewhere deep inside, he felt it stirring, as though awakened by the battle. A part of him that was neither human nor devil. A part that was something else, something powerful. And with that power, a silent vow took shape in his mind. "I will protect Asia. I'll protect my friends. No matter who tries to stand in my way." He clenched his fists, ignoring the trembling in his muscles. "I might not know what I am yet," he thought, "but I'll make these fallen angels regret messing with Kuo and with me." End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Late Night Occult Research Club Room. The moment Issei, Asia, and Kaneko stepped into the old school building, Ria stood up from her seat, relief and tension mingling on her face. Akeno and Kiba were present too, scattered around the lounge with anxious energy. "Thank the Mao you're back safely," Ria said, exhaling. Her crimson hair fell around her shoulders in gentle waves that couldn't quite hide the worry in her eyes. "Kaneko messaged us about Reynare's appearance. Are you all right?" Issei shot a glance at Asia, who had her hands curled protectively at her sides. "We're fine," he said, breathing heavily. She took off when she realized she couldn't just snatch Asia and run. Fried was nowhere to be seen, Kaneko added in her calm monotone. "Reynare confronted us alone. She mentioned wanting to report Issei's draconic power to someone." Rias's gaze flickered, tension tightening her features. "Then she's confirmed it," she murmured. "I suspected as much. She's recognized Issei isn't just any human. This could make him a target." Akeno softly cleared her throat. "And Fried will be more eager to clash with him again. He's not the type to let a personal grudge go." Issei felt frustration welling in his chest, remembering how Reynare's spear had nearly burned through his skin. "Let them come," he muttered, trying to steady his voice. "I'm not about to run and hide." Rias regarded him quietly, taking in his determination. He still hadn't agreed to become a devil, but there was no mistaking his resolve to protect Asia and everyone else, if it came to that. Kiba sheathed a practice sword he'd been holding. "I'll step up patrols around Kuo's borders," he offered. "If Fried or Reynare tries to move a larger force in, we'll catch wind of it." Rias gave him a nod of appreciation before turning back to Issei. Reinare's an experienced fallen angel, not to be taken lightly. But you managed to drive her off, you really are something else. However, we can't relax just yet. Asia stood slightly behind Issei, her expression anxious. What should we do then? I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me. Rias's gaze softened as she looked at Asia. You're not to blame, Asia. Your sacred gear, Twilight Healing, is extremely valuable. The Fallen might want to use it for their own ends, but we won't let that happen. Asia lowered her eyes, still unconvinced, but Issei gave her a reassuring nudge. You've done nothing wrong. A moment of quiet settled over the group until Akeno stepped forward, her voice gentle yet firm. Perhaps we should all rest for tonight. Tomorrow, we'll plan carefully. We'll find out where Fried and Reinare are holed up. Then, we strike back before they can scheme further. Rias gave a tired but resolute smile. Agreed. We'll regroup in the morning. She turned to Issei and Asia specifically. Stay at the club dormitory tonight if you like. It's safer than traveling back to your apartment. There's plenty of space. Asia looked hopefully at Issei. She was still shaken from the encounter, and the offer of a more protected environment appealed to her. Issei, for his part, didn't love the idea of being guarded, but he couldn't deny that an old school building full of devils was probably safer than his place if Fried decided to attack. He nodded. All right. Let's stay. Kaneko, stoic as ever, showed them to a guest room in the building's dorm wing. Akeno went to prepare a spare futon for Asia, while Issei paced around the hallway, restless energy coursing through him. That single word draconic kept echoing in his thoughts. Reinare recognized it, just like Fried had some sense of it before. Eventually, Kaneko approached, small footsteps nearly silent on the polished wood floor. She held out a bottle of water. Drink, she said simply. It's been a long night. He accepted it with a nod of thanks and took a small SP, sinking against the wall. Kaneko, did you sense anything else about me earlier? He asked quietly, recalling how her eyes had lingered on him after the fight. She pursed her lips. You're strong, but not like a devil or a typical sacred gear user. It's something else, like pure dragon aura, but sharper, heavier. Issei exhaled, shoulders tensing. That's what I keep hearing. A short silence hung between them. Thanks for having my back out there. Kaneko offered a subtle shrug. Rias bucko gave me a job. That's all. Then, her golden eyes flicked to his. Still, you did well. It was a small acknowledgement, but from Kaneko, it felt significant. Issei managed a tiny smile. Thanks. Let's keep Asia safe. She nodded, then turned to head back to her own room. Issei pushed himself off the wall and went to check on Asia. Maybe he could sleep after all, though the adrenaline was still thrumming under his skin. Early dawn guest room in the old school building. Light filtered through the thin curtains, painting the room in pale gold. Issei woke up on a simple futon, blinking the sleep from his eyes. Asia was still dozing on another futon across the room, her face peaceful in slumber. For a moment, he just lay there, the quiet hum of morning calm swirling around him. Child of dragons, awaken. The voice from his recurring dreams still felt too close, a whisper that made him shift uncomfortably. He sat up. Reaching under the loose sleeve of his t-shirt, he touched the faint swirl of a crest on his shoulder. It seemed more pronounced in the morning light, edges tinged with a subtle red glow. I'm not imagining this, he thought. With a sigh, he stood and exited into the hallway. Maybe he could clear his head with a walk around the building or find Rias or Akeno for a quick chat. As he made his way through the corridor, he caught the distant sound of running water and realized someone was up already, maybe taking a morning shower. He wandered down to the lounge area and found Rias in a bathrobe, hair still damp, sipping tea by a window. She turned her head when she sensed him. Good morning, she greeted, a small, soft smile on her face. She seemed more relaxed than last night. Did you sleep well? He gave a half-hearted chuckle. As well as I could. Thanks for letting us crash here. Asia's still asleep. Rias nodded. It's safer for her. Fried and Reinare won't dare assault this building outright. Not with my peerage around. She gestured for him to sit. Join me. He sat on the nearby couch, noticing that the tension lines on her brow had eased a bit. I've got a feeling we're not done with them, he remarked. We're not, she said flatly. But I have ways of investigating. My brother is influential in the underworld. And even if I can't ask him for constant interference, we can glean information about any fallen presence. Issei raised an eyebrow. Your brother, a small, almost playful gleam showed in her eyes. You'll learn about him eventually, she teased, but for now, let's focus on the immediate threat. He nodded, shifting uncomfortably. Rias, about this draconic thing. Rainare recognized it. Fried noticed it too. Kaneko said something similar. You mentioned you had suspicions. What do you actually think is going on with me? Rias studied him, her eyes compassionate but guarded. I'm not entirely certain, she admitted. I do suspect you have a direct link to a dragon or a draconic power. Sacred gears can house powerful dragons, but your aura doesn't feel contained, it feels innate. Issei swallowed, a swirl of emotions surging. Meaning, I might be part dragon? Rias pressed her lips together, hesitating. There are mythic stories about half-dragons or even quarter-dragons, but they're exceedingly rare and usually, it's from lesser dragon lines. Your power, though, feels more formidable. I sense something akin to the greatest of dragons. He let out a shaky laugh, the absurdity of it hitting him. Greatest of dragons, like the ones from the legends? There's only a handful on that scale, right? A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Yes. Like the Welsh dragon, or the vanishing dragon, or even the legendary dragon gods themselves. She shook her head. But let's not jump to conclusions. He couldn't help the chill creeping over him at the mention of dragon gods. The words Ophis and Great Red pulsed in the back of his mind, though he couldn't pin why. I guess we'll see, he murmured. Indeed, she replied softly, rising to her feet. The sunlight caught the damp ends of her crimson hair, making them glisten. But remember, no matter what you learn about yourself, you're not alone here. We may be devils, but we watch out for each other. Her gentle sincerity made his chest tighten. Thanks, Rias. She gave a nod and headed upstairs, presumably to change. Issei remained on the couch, staring into the middle distance, trying to imagine what it would mean if he were part dragon, or something even stranger. The day had barely started, and he already felt his brain would burst from so many possibilities. Mid-morning strategy session. By the time Asia woke, the peerage had assembled in the lounge area. The table was spread with old maps of Kuo town, as well as a few magical documents. Akeno was reading from a parchment, while Kiba tapped locations on the map. Kaneko leaned against the wall, arms folded. Rias motioned for Issei and Asia to join them. We're identifying likely hotspots for fallen activity, she explained. Kiba has been patrolling near the old church. It's abandoned, but there's evidence someone's been there recently. Kiba nodded, pointing at a circled location on the map. I noticed Ward's setup a bit sloppy, but definitely a fallen angel design. Fried's footsteps were there too. Likely they're using it as a base, or at least a temporary hideout. Issei's jaw clenched. So Fried and Rainare are probably close by, just waiting for a chance to strike at Asia or me. Rias's gaze flicked to Asia, who trembled slightly at the news. Then she returned her attention to the group. Yes, that's our best lead. The question is how we move without walking into a trap. Akeno brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. Perhaps we could lure them out. If Fried is itching for a fight with Issei, we could use that as bait. You remain in a controlled space, and we set a perimeter with a barrier to trap Fried once he shows himself. Asia looked alarmed. That sounds dangerous. Issei placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to steady her. It is dangerous, but Fried won't quit. If we don't flush them out, they might keep ambushing us on the streets. Kaneko spoke up in her calm, direct way. Rainare might come too, or bring other fallen. Are we prepared for that? Rias tapped the table thoughtfully. If it's just Fried and Rainare, my peerage should handle them. But we don't know if they're backed by a larger fallen faction. A tense silence followed. Eventually, Rias sighed. We'll keep Asia out of direct combat. Issei, I'd still rather not put you in harm's way, but if you're willing, we can formulate a plan around your role as bait. Only if you agree. He squared his shoulders, remembering the fury and protective instinct in his veins whenever Fried or Rainare threatened Asia. I'll do it. Asia's hands clutched her skirt. But I'm not letting these creeps roam free, he said, voice firm. And if they want me, Better to face them head-on. I trust all of you, he added, glancing at Rias and the others. You've got my back, right? Akeno smiled, electricity sparking in her eyes. Absolutely. Kiba bowed politely. Count on me. Kaneko nodded once. Rias looked at Issei with a mixture of gratitude and worry. Very well, she said gently, but we have to move carefully. Late afternoon abandoned church vicinity. The plan was simple on paper. Issei would linger near the church grounds, somewhat exposed, hoping Fried's thirst for battle would draw him out. Meanwhile, Rias's peerage would hide in various positions, ready to spring a barrier around the area to prevent the fallen from escaping. Asia was left in the care of Sona's Citri for the afternoon, an unusual alliance. But Rias insisted Sona's territory, the student council office, was secure. Issei was uneasy leaving Asia behind, but she gave him a trembling smile and told him to be careful. That was enough to steady his resolve. Now he stood near the rusted gate of the abandoned church, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the empty courtyard. His heart thumped in his chest, adrenaline thick in his blood. Yet a strange calmness intermingled with the tension, as if some primal part of him welcomed this confrontation. He'd only been there a few minutes when a voice cut through the still air. Well, look who decided to come calling. Fried stepped out from behind a row of bushes, wearing that same twisted grin. His priest uniform was dirty, flecked with dried blood. A ragged patch covered part of his shoulder, maybe from the previous scuffle. Took you long enough, Issei said, bracing himself. He had to be the distraction, keep Fried occupied until Rias signaled the barrier. Fried cackled, brandishing his sword of light. Damn right, it took forever. I was bored out of my mind waiting for you. That last time, you caught me off guard. He licked his lips. But tonight, Fried's ready to chop up a certain meddlesome brat. Issei forced himself not to flinch at the man's unhinged energy. Fried radiated bloodlust like an aura, swirling with mania. I'm not the same as last time, Issei retorted, stepping forward to draw Fried's attention fully. Let's see what you got. Fried let out a delighted laugh and rushed forward with insane speed. Issei's instincts kicked into overdrive, and he dodged Fried's slash by a hair's breadth. The exorcist swung again, sparks flying as his blade sliced through the air. Issei blocked with a forearm, that red-black aura flickering around him again. Your strange shield trick, Fried said, eyes gleaming with sadistic excitement. How about I slice right through it? He pressed his advantage, unleashing a flurry of stabs. Issei grit his teeth, focusing on each blow. Though Fried was insane, he was no amateur. His swordsmanship was precise, and the light sword could do severe damage if it landed a clean hit. Issei felt the cuts burning across his shirt sleeves, but he managed to avoid anything too deep. Part of him wanted to lash out with the same intensity he'd shown earlier, but he reminded himself, I'm stalling. Let Fried overextend. He just needed to give Rias's group a window to encircle them. A hiss from the roof of the church drew Fried's gaze. Akeno, perched like a hawk, unleashed a crackle of lightning that soared through the air, aimed to pin Fried down. Fried jumped back with a curse. Sneaky devils, he spat. Kaneko leapt from behind a stone pillar, delivering a punishing kick that Fried barely deflected. Kiba charged from another angle. Fried found himself surrounded by three devils, each wearing determined expressions. Issei exhaled relief. So far, so good. He looked to the side, expecting Rias to appear and raise the barrier any second. Then, without warning, a sharp call-like laugh sliced through the air. Tisk, tisk. I can't let you have all the fun, Fried. From the church's broken steeple soared Rainare, black wings flared out dramatically. She landed in a swirl of dark feathers, forming a glowing spear of light in her hand. Her eyes locked onto Issei, a triumphant smirk curving her lips. You made our job easier by coming to us. Rias finally stepped forward, crimson aura blazing. On the contrary, you've fallen right into our trap. She raised a hand, chanting a short incantation. A shimmering dome began to form around the church courtyard, sealing them in. Fried's grin faltered when he noticed the barrier's purple glow. Oh, you devils are so cunning, he sneered. But Fried's not done yet. Rainare spread her wings, clearly agitated. Barrier or not, we'll carve a path out. Then we'll take that ex-nun and your pet dragon boy with us. Rias's power flared around her, flickers of destruction energy forming in her palms. Akino's lightning crackled overhead. Kiba readied his sword, and Kaneko crouched low, fists glowing with demonic might. Issei's heart pounded, but he found himself strangely exhilarated. They had the advantage of surprise, the numbers, and the barrier. Still, Reynare and Fried together were formidable. Fried was clearly itching for a kill, and Reynare's cunning eyes darted about, likely searching for a point of weakness in the barrier or a place to slip away. Rias opened the attack. A crimson sphere of destruction magic hurtled toward Reynare, forcing the fallen to evade into the air. Akeno followed up with a barrage of lightning bolts, each strike exploding upon impact with the ground. Fried cursed, rolling to avoid the blasts. Issei saw his moment to strike Fried from behind. He charged, summoning that internal surge. The swirl of red-black aura coated his arms as he swung a punch at Fried's exposed flank. Fried, fast as ever, whirled around. His light sword clashed with Issei's aura, sending sparks flying. Both men stumbled back, Fried with a mad grin. "You really are strong," Fried spat, "for a pathetic human. Let me rip that strength out of you." Kaneko seized Fried's momentary distraction, landing a brutal punch to his ribs. Fried choked, staggering sideways before slashing wildly to keep her at bay. Kaneko retreated, calm focus in her eyes. Meanwhile, Reynare engaged in a high-speed aerial duel with Rias's destructive magic and Akino's lightning. She dove down in a spiraling lunge toward Rias, spear poised. Rias coolly countered with a wave of purple-red energy. The collision sparked an explosion that rattled the ground. Kiba darted through the dust, sword flashing. He aimed to slice Reynare's wing, but she twisted away, launching a volley of light daggers at him. He expertly deflected them, though one grazed his arm, drawing a line of smoke and blood. Issei saw the faint tremor in the barrier. The repeated blasts were weakening it slightly, but hopefully not enough to let the fallen slip out. Fried took advantage of the chaos. "Time to slice me some devils," he cried, lunging for Kaneko again. His blade crackled with intense light energy, far more concentrated than before. Kaneko braced herself, blocking with her arms coated in demonic power, but Fried's insane strength forced her back, leaving a jagged burn across one of her sleeves. Issei felt anger spike. He jumped into Fried's path, exchanging a flurry of blows with him. With each clash, the red-black aura around Issei flared brighter. Fried's sword vibrated with each impact, but Fried only seemed more thrilled. "You're practically a monster," Fried jeered. "I love it." Issei gritted his teeth, ignoring Fried's taunts. He channeled raw force into his next strike, hooking Fried's jaw with a savage uppercut. Fried soared backward, landing in a heap near a crumbling tombstone. Kaneko moved to follow up, but Fried sprang up like a lunatic, laughing despite the blood trickling from his mouth. Reynare, on the other side of the courtyard, was wrestling with Akino's lightning, her own dark feathers absorbing some of the impact. Rias advanced, launching concentrated blasts of destruction magic. Reynare retaliated with a swooping dive, spear angled to pierce Rias's chest. Rias pivoted, letting the spear graze her shoulder instead of striking home. She grimaced in pain but countered with a lethal magic shot to Reynare's wing. The fallen let out a shriek, stumbling mid-flight. Black feathers rained down like ash. "Damn, you, devil princess," Reynare panted, eyes filled with malice. She fixed her glare on Issei. "But this will all be worth it, once we get that power hidden inside your little hero." A sudden spike of energy made everyone pause. Fried was chanting something, his sword glowing in eerie white. Akino's eyes widened. "Careful, that's a holy enhancement." Rias cursed under her breath. He must have stolen it from a secret exorcist cache. "Everyone, brace yourselves." Fried slammed his sword into the ground. A shockwave of holy light rippled outward. Kiba and Kaneko leapt back, narrowly avoiding direct contact. Even Rias and Akeno had to shield themselves. Issei felt the wave burn his skin, though not as severely as he might have expected. Something about his aura mitigated the holy energy. He still hissed in pain. Fried cackled, eyes wild. Let's see how you handle an exorcist's ultimate technique, you worthless devils. And you, he growled, pointing the blade at Issei, prepared to die in the name of Fried Selzen. Not a chance, Issei shot back. He rushed forward, ignoring the thrumming pain coursing up his legs from the wave. Fried lunged as well, both colliding in a whirl of sparks. Issei caught Fried's sword arm, straining to keep the blade from his neck. Fried bared his teeth, pressing forward. You're strong, but I've got the Lord's light, Fried hissed, veins bulging in his forehead. Rias sent a sphere of destructive magic at Fried's blind spot, but Fried whirled Issei around to block. Issei grunted as the sphere dissipated against his aura, scorching his shirt and rattling him to the core. Fried used that opening to slash at Issei's torso, drawing a shallow but burning cut. Pain flared, adrenaline spiking. Issei roared, a low guttural sound echoing with that unearthly draconic timbre. For a second, Fried's eyes widened in real fear. Issei tore Fried's sword arm aside and slammed a fist into his chest. A pulse of red-black energy followed, blasting Fried off his feet and into a crumbling statue. The stone exploded on impact, sending shards everywhere. Fried lay there, gasping, but even then, he tried to rise, a malignant grin twisting his bloody lips. Let me at you, he rasped. Rainare snarled from above, struggling to keep flight with her wounded wing. Fried, you idiot, you'll get yourself killed. She conjured another spear, then hurled it at the barrier overhead. The spear exploded in a burst of light, fracturing the barrier just enough for her to squeeze through. Rias cursed. She's going to escape. Akeno unleashed a barrage of lightning at Rainare, but the fallen sword out of range, black feathers scattering. Fried coughed up blood, unable to stand, but still wearing that grin. Go, Rainare, get back up, he groaned. The group gathered around Fried's collapsed form, cautious. We should finish him, Kiba said, sword at the ready. He's too dangerous to leave alive. Rias's lips pressed into a grim line. Yes, she said quietly, he's beyond redemption. Fried coughed a ragged laugh, glancing at Issei with a crazed gleam. Hey, boy, that power in you, don't let them take it away. Hey, haha, Fried wants to see more of that draconic madness. Issei stared at Fried's broken form, feeling a swirl of disgust and pity. Fried had been consumed by his fanatic hatred. There was no saving someone who found joy in murder. Rias lifted her hand, power of destruction swirling in her palm. Fried closed his eyes, as if welcoming oblivion. Then, with a silent gesture, Rias unleashed the destructive orb. It collided with Fried, disintegrating him in a flash of crimson energy. A bitter hush fell as the dust settled. Fried Selzen, stray exorcist, was no more. Issei exhaled slowly, chest heaving. The barrier shimmered, then dissipated under Akino's control. Everyone was battered, with various burns and cuts. Kaneko leaned against a broken wall, wincing at her bruised arm. Kiba clutched his wounded side. Akino's face was streaked with soot. Rias, bleeding from her shoulder, still managed to maintain regal composure. They had won, but Rainare had escaped. The tension in the group's posture remained. Kiba sheathed his sword with a shaky breath. Fried's out of the picture at least. Rias nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. Yes, but Rainare is on the loose. She'll report back to any fallen in the area. We need to stay vigilant. Issei placed a hand on the cut across his torso. Asia wasn't there to heal him, but twilight healing could have soothed the burn quickly. For the moment, he'd have to tough it out, so what's next? Rias studied him, her features softening. We recover. Then we find Rainare. We can't allow her to gather reinforcements or plot Asia's capture again. She glanced around at her peerage. Everyone, good job. Let's head back to the club. Evening Occult Research Club lounge. The peerage reconvened in the lounge, bruised and exhausted. A faint hum of tension lingered. Akeno treated Kiba's and Kaneko's wounds with basic healing spells. Rias sat in an armchair, a bandage over her shoulder. Issei leaned against a wall, arms crossed, adrenaline still simmering in his veins. We need Asia, Akeno murmured, pressing a glowing hand to Kiba's side. Her sacred gear would make short work of these injuries. Rias nodded. I'll have Sona bring her here. She picked up her phone and typed out a quick message. Kaneko, typically reserved, let out a small sigh. Fried is gone. Good. Her brief statement carried a weight of relief. Fried's madness had haunted them for a while. There was a quiet round of agreement. Then Kiba looked at Issei. You fought well, he said with a respectful nod. You took Fried's assault head on. Issei shrugged, scanning the fresh bandages on his torso. I just did what I had to. But deep inside, he felt that swirl of pride and confusion about this unstoppable power welling in him whenever he fought. Akeno smiled at him in that slow, almost teasing way. You're quite fierce out there, like a dragon. Does that excite you? Her tone held a playful edge, but her eyes shone with genuine curiosity. Issei felt a flush creep across his cheeks. It's not about excitement. Fried had to be stopped. He paused, swallowing. But yeah, it felt intense. Rias's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Sona's on the way with Asia. Kaneko wordlessly slipped out to meet them at the entrance. A few moments later, footsteps approached, and Asia's gentle voice reached them. I'm here. Oh no, everyone's hurt. She rushed in, face awash with concern. Immediately, she knelt by Rias, who waved off Asia's worry with a small smile. Handle the others first. I'll manage, Rias said softly. Without hesitation, Asia placed her hands over Kiba's side, her sacred gear glowing with pale green light. The wound knit together rapidly under her healing touch. Kiba exhaled, relief washing over his features. Next was Kaneko, who had a deep bruise forming along her ribs. Asia's healing aura spread over Kaneko's torso, easing the pain. Then Asia turned to Issei, eyes brimming with worry. Issei, your cut looks deep. It's not too bad, he said with a brave front, though it still stung. Asia gently tugged at his shirt hem, urging him to sit so she could access the wound. He gave in, letting her push his shirt aside enough to see the reddened gash across his stomach. He winced as she pressed healing energy into it, the warmth soothing the burning sensation. I'm sorry I wasn't there, Asia murmured, if I'd been with you. Don't, he said softly, meeting her gaze. We won because we planned it that way. Fried's finished, so it worked out. A faint blush colored Asia's cheeks as she realized how close they were, her hands gently resting on his bare skin. She finished the healing quickly, and Issei marveled at how the sting vanished, replaced by a tingling warmth. Rias cleared her throat, catching Asia's attention. Your turn to rest, Asia. Thank you, I'll let you heal me if you have any energy left. Asia moved to Rias, carefully placing her hands on Rias's injured shoulder. The bright healing glow returned, and Rias inhaled sharply, closing her eyes as the pain receded. That should do it, Asia said, her voice soft. But you've all used a lot of energy. Maybe we should eat something. Kaneko's ears perked at the mention of food. I like that idea, she said in a near whisper. Rias offered Asia a grateful smile. We can order something in. Kiba, could you? Kiba nodded, pulling out his phone to arrange a delivery. The tension in the room eased, replaced by an undercurrent of victory tempered by caution. They had removed a threat, but Rainare was still out there. Later that night, kitchen area of the club, the group congregated around a makeshift table, devouring a feast of takeout food. Kaneko happily munched on sweet buns, while Kiba quietly sipped on tea. Rias was perched on a stool beside Issei, occasionally picking at her food. Akeno entertained herself by teasing Issei about how fiercely he fought Fried. Really, Akeno said in a sultry tone, that roar you unleashed, it made my whole body tingle. I've never seen a human do something quite like that. Issei's cheeks heated. It just happened. You guys keep calling it a roar, but I don't even remember making that sound. It was like instinct. Rias's expression grew thoughtful. Instinct is a big part of a dragon's power. They act on a primal surge of emotion, fierce, direct, unstoppable. She studied him as if trying to piece together a puzzle. It's possible your heritage is awakening. The more battles you face, the more it comes to the surface. He swallowed, pushing a stray piece of rice around on his plate. If that's true, then I might get even stronger, he said slowly, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Asia reached out, placing a hand gently atop his. I think it's good if you can protect yourself and the people you care about, she said earnestly. You saved me and the others more than once now. Her sincerity tugged at him, and he turned his hand over to give hers a small squeeze. I guess you're right. Kaneko watched them with her usual silent curiosity, then snagged another sweet bun. Just don't get too cocky, she admonished quietly. Power can do strange things to people. Issei nodded, remembering Fried's final expression of madness. Power had twisted Fried into a monster. He didn't want to end up consumed by some draconic fury he couldn't control. I'll be careful, he promised. Rias lifted her drink in a small toast, her eyes shining with determination. We'll keep each other in check. With Fried gone, we've taken a big step. But we can't relax until we deal with Rainare. Let's remain united. They all clinked their cups together in a quiet show of solidarity. Midnight hallway outside the lounge later, as the others tidied up, Issei slipped out into the hallway, feeling antsy. The night was cool, and the partial moonlight streaming through the windows cast long shadows on the floor. He wandered until he found himself outside on a small balcony that overlooked the school courtyard. He stood there, arms resting on the railing, breathing in the crisp air. His thoughts churned. Fried was gone. Rainare was still on the loose, and his own mysterious power was growing. In just a short time, his life had flipped upside down. Yesterday, he was just a confident high school kid with a weird dream, and today, he was a pivotal piece in a supernatural war. The door behind him slid open. Couldn't sleep? Rias asked softly, stepping onto the balcony. He shook his head. No, too much on my mind. She leaned against the railing beside him, silent for a moment. Then, I understand. This world can feel overwhelming when you're thrown into it so suddenly. He let out a short laugh. Overwhelming's an understatement. A breeze ruffled Rias's hair, carrying a faint floral scent. She tilted her head to look at him. I'm grateful, you know, for how you've helped Asia and me. Issei glanced at her. I haven't done much for you specifically. She gave a tiny smile, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. You helped protect my territory from Fried. You spared my peerage from more dangerous battles by taking on Fried's madness yourself. And you've eased my burden by simply being here. She lowered her gaze. Leading a peerage, protecting Kuo, there's a lot on my shoulders. But your presence makes it feel more manageable. He felt his chest tighten at her honesty. A flicker of warmth coursed through him. Rias. She turned to face him fully, the moonlight catching her crimson hair in soft radiance. You're special. Issei, far more special than you realize. And not just because of your power. You have a fearless heart. Issei swallowed, heat creeping up his face. I am just acting on instinct. Her lips curved. That's what I mean. She reached out, fingertips lightly grazing his cheek. He caught the faint tremor in her hand, as if she was nervous too. But the moment felt electric, their eyes locked. Before he could fully process it, she leaned in and pressed her lips to his soft and warm, a gentle yet insistent kiss under the moonlight. The contact sent a jolt through him, different from adrenaline or draconic fury. This was something deeply human, an emotional surge that left him breathless. He found himself returning the kiss, heart hammering so loudly he was sure she could hear it. For a few beats, nothing else existed but the warmth of her lips and the nighttime breeze against his skin. Then, Rias pulled back, her cheeks faintly flushed. Sorry, she whispered, a hint of a playful smile ghosting her features. I've been wanting to do that for a while. He stared at her, stunned, heart pounding. And no, I don't be sorry, I just didn't expect. She chuckled softly, lifting a hand to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. I won't lie, part of it's my nature as a devil. We tend to act on desires more freely than humans. But another part, she bit her lower lip. You fascinate me, Issei. I admire your drive to protect people, even without being part of a peerage. Warmth flooded him. Rias, he reached for her hand, curling his fingers around hers. I like you too. I just wasn't sure how to say it. Her eyes sparkled, and she leaned her forehead against his. They stood there, breathing each other in, letting the quiet night air swirl around them. In the background, a faint hush of wind rustled the trees. After a lingering moment, she squeezed his hand and stepped back, clearing her throat. We should probably return inside, she said, voice gentle. Long day tomorrow. He nodded, still somewhat dazed by the sudden intimacy. Right, yeah. They walked back in companionable silence. He could feel the ghost of her kiss on his lips, a reminder of how quickly life was changing. Fried was dead. Reynare was still a threat, and somewhere in the swirl of it all, he was forging new bonds, ones that stirred feelings he hadn't expected to grow so fast. The next morning school grounds classes proceeded as usual, though Issei barely paid attention to any lectures. Asia hovered at his side during breaks, shyly asking about the fight. He tried to reassure her that Fried was no longer a problem. He found himself glancing around for Rias, but she was busy with her own schedule. When they did lock eyes in the corridor, she gave him a small, secretive smile that made his heart flutter. Akano caught him once in the hallway, giggling lightly. You and Rias bucko seemed awfully cozy last night, she teased, voice laced with mischief. Issei nearly choked on his words. How do you? She winked. I might have sensed a spike of devilish energy on the balcony. Or maybe I'm just an expert at reading Rias's aura. She shrugged, grin widening. I'm happy for you both, truly. He blushed, rubbing the back of his neck. It's not like we're official or anything, even saying that out loud made his heart pound. Akano laughed softly, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Just follow your heart, Issei. Then she walked off, leaving him flustered and more than a little curious about what exactly she knew. Late afternoon occult research club. Once classes ended, the peerage gathered again to discuss the next steps. Asia was present, seated beside Issei. Rias looked composed, her usual confident poise intact. Reynare is our main threat now, Rias began, eyes drifting to each member of the group. Without Fried, she might recruit other Fallen. We need to track her down before she can plan a larger assault. Kiba reported, I've asked Sona's peerage to help monitor incoming supernatural auras. So far, no major spike except Fried's final stand. Reynare seems to be in hiding. Akano drummed her fingers on the table. If she's smart, she'll lay low. But she might also try to capture Asia while we're focused on searching for her. Asia's healing power is too tempting a resource. Asia bowed her head. I don't want to be a burden, but… Stop, Issei said gently, resting a hand on her arm. It's not your fault. We just have to be ready. Rias nodded. Exactly. We'll keep Asia under our protection at all times. For now, remain on alert. Patrol in pairs around Kuo. If Reynare shows her face, we confront her as a group. They all agreed, dividing duties. Kaneko and Kiba would handle evening patrols, Akano and Rias would share watch duty near campus, and Issei would remain with Asia unless otherwise needed. As the meeting ended and the group started dispersing, Rias called Issei to one side. Walk with me, she said softly. He followed her out into the corridor. Corridor private conversation. Rias led him to a quiet alcove near a window. Late afternoon sunlight streamed in, catching motes of dust that danced in the air. She turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. Issei, she began, there's one more matter we should address. He tilted his head. What is it? She hesitated, as if weighing her words. I offered to make you a devil before, to ensure your safety and incorporate your strength into my peerage. You refused then because you weren't ready. After seeing what you can do, I'm not so sure I should keep pushing you to become a devil. Your power is unique. You might thrive without being tied to my peerage. He looked at her, surprised by her admission. I thought you needed strong fighters. I do, she answered, her voice quiet, but I also respect your freedom. Especially now that she paused. A faint pink tint coloring her cheeks. Now that I care about you more than just as a potential servant. His heart thumped. Rias, thanks, that means a lot. She reached out, taking his hand. All I ask is that if you ever feel like you're in over your head, you consider joining me. We can protect each other. He squeezed her hand, gazing into her cobalt eyes. I'll keep that in mind. For now, I'll stand by you all. Being a devil or not, doesn't change that I want to fight alongside you. Relief flickered in her eyes. She leaned in quickly, planting a gentle kiss on his cheek. Good. A flush crept over his face. He chuckled, feeling that familiar warmth. You're pretty brave, kissing me in the hallway like this. Anyone could walk by. She shrugged, mischief glinting in her smile. I'm the king of this peerage and the boss around here. I can do as I please. He laughed softly. I guess so. They lingered a moment longer, simply enjoying each other's presence. Then she pulled away, smoothing her skirt. We should return. The others are probably waiting. He nodded, and they walked back side by side, the tension between them replaced by a gentle camaraderie that felt as fragile as it was exhilarating. That evening streets of Kuo, while Kiba and Kaneko started their patrol, Issei took Asia to buy some groceries. He insisted she could stay in his apartment again if she wanted, or the club dorm. She decided to remain with him for one more night, saying it felt cozier, and he didn't argue. They strolled down a quiet street, dusk settling in. Asia was fascinated by the lights of the small shops, the crowds thinning after rush hour. She glanced up at him, a small smile on her lips. "I never got to do normal things like grocery shopping much," she admitted. "It's nice, peaceful." He smiled back. "Well, you deserve some peace. After all this craziness with Freed, it's nice to just breathe." They stopped at a fruit stand, picking out apples and bananas. The kind old vendor handed Asia a free sample. She munched it happily, eyes shining. "Issei, do you think we'll ever have a truly normal life?" she asked quietly. Once they'd walked away from the stand. "With devils, fallen angels, your dragon power. Everything feels so unpredictable." He considered that. "I'm not sure normal is an option anymore," he admitted, a slight rueful laugh escaping. "But maybe we can find moments of normalcy, like this." She beamed at him, hugging the small bag of groceries to her chest. "Then that's enough for me." Outside Issei's apartment nightfall they arrived at his building, the sky fully dark now. Streetlights flickered, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. As they climbed the steps, a sudden chill slid up Issei's spine. He paused, scanning the area. Something felt off. "Issei," Asia whispered, noticing his tension. Before he could answer, a voice cut through the silence from the shadows near the stairwell. "Ah, there you are. I was wondering when you'd come home." Issei's eyes widened. Emerging into the dim glow of the overhead light was Rainare, her black wings tucked behind her. She wore a faint smile, though her eyes gleamed with menace. Asia stepped behind Issei, fear radiating off her. "Our Rainare." Rainare held up her hands in a mocking show of peace. "Relax. I'm not here to kill you, at least, not right now." Issei's fists clenched, aura prickling under his skin. "How did you find my place?" She snorted. "Please. It wasn't exactly hidden. And Freed left notes, the idiot. But you devils were sloppy too, letting me slip away." Her gaze flicked to Asia. Poor Freed. If only he hadn't been so reckless. Anger stirred in Issei's chest. "Don't talk like you cared about him. He was just a tool to you, right?" Rainare shrugged, not bothering to deny it. "Anyway, I came to propose a little arrangement. You see, I could gather more fallen angels. Wage a small war here in Kuo. But that'd be messy, wouldn't it?" She tilted her head. "So, I thought maybe we could strike a deal." Issei scoffed. "I'm not making any deal with you." Rainare's laugh was cold. "Don't be so quick to refuse. I only want one thing: Asia and her sacred gear. Hand her over, and I leave you alone." Asia let out a trembling gasp, clutching Issei's sleeve. Issei's fury flared. "Not a chance in hell." Rainare sighed dramatically. "Well, I had to try. Because the alternative is that I call in reinforcements, and we turn this entire town into a battlefield. You might have killed Freed, but you won't stand against an army of fallen, especially if some higher-ups join me." "Empty threats," Issei hissed, though uncertainty gnawed at him. Could she really bring that many fallen to Kuo? "Is it empty?" she mused. "The Grigori have many who'd love to harness twilight healing or that draconic energy in you. If I say the word, they'll send envoys." She paused, eyes narrowing. "But I'm offering you a chance to avoid all that. Surrender the ex-nun, or prepare for war." Asia trembled, tears at the corners of her eyes. "Issei." He steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry." Turning back to Rainare, he said low, "Even if you gather an army, we'll fight. Rias, Sona, everyone in this town, devil or otherwise, they won't roll over. You'll lose." Rainare's face darkened. "Then you're willing to risk countless lives for this worthless girl?" Issei's auras surged, swirling around him in faint red-black wisps. "She's worth more than you can imagine. And I won't let you lay a single finger on her." A tense standoff ensued. Rainare stared at him, calculating. Then she clicked her tongue. "Fine. Have it your way, hero." But next time we meet, I'll bring the rest of my flock. She extended her wings, flaring them ominously. Pray that your devil friends are enough to protect you. With that, she launched into the night sky. Issei watched her vanish, heart pounding, fists still clenched. Asia's tears spilled over. I'm sorry, she choked out. It's my fault. She wants me. I'm putting everyone in danger. He turned and pulled her into a protective embrace. Stop apologizing, he said, voice wavering with emotion. I promised I'd keep you safe, no matter what. She held onto him, shaking. For a long moment, they stayed that way, the night air chilling around them. Eventually, he gently guided her inside. Let's call Rias, he said. We need to let them know Reinare's threatened a bigger attack. We'll figure this out together. Asia nodded, wiping her eyes. Oh, okay. Inside, Issei picked up his phone, already dreading the conversation. War in Kuo. Reinare might not be bluffing. But beneath the dread simmered a fierce determination. Let them come. Fried was insane. But so was trying to strong-arm Kuo's devils. He'd stand with Rias, Akeno, Kiba, Kaneko and Asia. No matter how big the Fallen's flock was. His mind drifted to the memory of that endless red sky in his dreams, the feeling of unstoppable power. A small part of him almost welcomed the fight, wanting to unleash the draconic might on anyone who threatened his friends. He clutched the phone tighter, adrenaline racing. Whatever you plan, Reinare, I'm ready. The call to Rias rang. Asia looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope. He gave her a slight nod, silently promising he wouldn't let her go. They'd stand together against the coming storm. Chapter 3, approximately 8,000 words, presented in shorter scene breaks to maintain readability. Fast pacing, cinematic action, character development, and natural dialogue. Late night Issei's apartment. Lightning flickered outside the window, the rumble of distant thunder rolling through Kuo town's streets. Issei stood in his small living room, phone still in hand after calling Rias. His heart thudded, replaying Reinare's threat. Surrender Asia or face an army of fallen angels. Across the room, Asia sat on his couch, gaze fixed anxiously on him. She fiddled with the hem of her skirt, her expression a swirl of guilt and worry. How did Rias respond? She asked quietly, voice trembling. She said to stay put and not leave my apartment until she and Akeno arrive, he answered, setting the phone on the table. They're mobilizing Kiba and Kaneko to sweep the area. Sona Citri's group is also on alert. Asia tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. All this, just because I have twilight healing. Her tone was laced with self-blame. Am I worth that kind of trouble, Issei? He moved over and kneeled in front of her, gently placing his hands over hers. You've asked that before, he said softly. And I'll say the same thing. Yes. You're not a bargaining chip. You're my friend more than that, even. He paused, cheeks warming slightly. We all care about you. No one's handing you over to some fallen freaks. A flicker of relief sparked in her eyes, though tears still threatened. The storm outside grew louder, wind rattling the windows. Issei glanced around his small apartment, mind churning. The idea of a mass fallen invasion was daunting. Fried had been bad enough. But a legion, even with Rias's entire peerage, they'd be hard-pressed to keep Kuo from becoming a battlefield. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, followed by a knock. Issei tensed but relaxed when he sensed a familiar aura beyond the door. He opened it to find Rias and Akeno, both wearing serious expressions. Any sign of Reinare or other fallen? He asked. Rias shook her head. Not yet. She vanished after confronting you. We suspect she might still be in the area, gathering support. She stepped inside, eyes briefly sweeping the living space. We'll keep watch outside tonight. Akeno, Kiba, and I will rotate shifts. Akeno gave Asia a gentle smile. Don't worry, Asia. We won't let Reinare lay a finger on you. Asia stood, bowing politely. Thank you. Issei closed the door, feeling a rush of gratitude for them both. Should I join the patrol? He asked Rias. I can fight. Her gaze softened as she took in his determination. I know, but for tonight, I'd like you here, guarding Asia. If Reinare tries to strike again, she'll come straight for your place. He nodded, fists clenched at his sides. Right, I'll stay. Lightning flashed again, illuminating Rias's face. She exchanged a look with Akano, and the two women left to meet Kiba and Kaneko. Issei bolted the door behind them, that sense of tension settling in for a long night. Midnight. Issei's living room hours passed without incident, and Asia eventually dozed off on the couch, exhausted by the stress. Issei paced around restlessly. Every thunderclap made him wonder if Rainare lurked nearby, ready to strike. He stopped at the window, staring at the rain-soaked street below. "Come on," he muttered. "Make your move if you're gonna." The uncertainty was gnawing at him. Movement behind him caught his attention. Asia had woken, her eyes half-lidded with drowsiness. "Issei," she murmured, voice soft. "Sorry, did I wake you?" he asked, forcing a small smile. She shook her head. "I can't sleep. Too worried." He sighed, moving to sit beside her. "Me too. But we've got Rias, Akano, and everyone else patrolling. If Rainare tries anything, they'll sense it." Asia leaned her head against his shoulder, seeking comfort. The closeness made him keenly aware of her warmth. Her next words came out shakily. "You're always protecting me, from Freed, from Rainare, are you sure it's not a burden?" He slid an arm around her shoulders. "It's not a burden," he said, keeping his voice low, "I promise." She looked up, eyes shining with unspoken emotion. Caught in the moment, a rush of affection surged through Issei, and he leaned in impulsively, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We'll be okay," he whispered. Asia's cheeks turned pink, but she smiled, eyes brimming with gratitude. She nestled closer, and for a time, they sat like that, the pounding rain and distant thunder the only sounds breaking the stillness. Early morning. Kuo Academy grounds. A new day dawned, gray and damp, puddles littering the campus walkways. Rias and her peerage minus Issei and Asia stood gathered near the school's entrance, discussing the fruitless patrol. "We didn't find any sign of a fallen buildup," Kiba reported. "No new aura signatures or suspicious individuals." Akano sighed, shaking her head. "She's in hiding, waiting for the perfect moment, or for reinforcements." Rias frowned, a thoughtful crease between her brows. "This waiting game is dangerous. She could show up at any time." Kaneko's quiet voice cut in. "We keep watch. If we scatter too thin, she might break through. But if we concentrate only on Issei's place, she might attack Asia at school or somewhere else." Rias nodded, tension evident in the set of her shoulders. "We'll keep rotating coverage. Notify Sona that we need extra eyes on campus, especially near Asia and Issei." She paused, glancing at the wet pavement, mind clearly turning over strategies to corner Rainare before she struck with an army at her back. Late morning. Issei's apartment. By mid-morning, the rain had lightened to a misty drizzle. Issei and Asia prepared to head to Kuo Academy, since skipping classes might raise suspicion among the human students. They paused at the threshold, checking outside for any lurking figures. Nothing, just a cold breeze rustling drenched trees. "Let's hurry," Issei said, taking Asia's hand. "Kiba's meeting us at the gate to escort us in." Asia nodded, clutching her bag nervously. Together, they left, hearts pounding at every little sound. Kuo Academy main gate. Just as promised, Kiba waited by the ornate front gates, leaning casually against a stone pillar. He straightened when he saw them, offering a polite smile. "Morning, Issei, Asia. I'll walk you both to your classrooms." Asia breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Issei glanced around, noticing the usual swarm of students milling about, umbrellas in hand. In the hustle and bustle, he spotted the student council president, Sona Sitri, speaking with her vice president, Tsubaki. Sona caught his eye, her intelligent gaze flickering briefly with acknowledgement. She didn't approach, but Issei knew she was on alert too. The three made their way inside, ignoring the curious looks from classmates. Issei suspected rumors were already floating around about him being part of some special group. He brushed it off. After all, there were bigger concerns than gossip. Lunchtime. School roof. Kiba had parted ways to patrol the perimeter, leaving Asia and Issei alone for lunch. They chose a secluded corner of the roof, hoping for some peace. The skies remained overcast, wind whipping at their hair. Asia nibbled at her sandwich, eyes distant. "I can't stop worrying about Rainare. She could attack any time, anywhere." Issei exhaled, leaning against the chain link fence. We have to trust Rias and the others. If Reynare tries something, we'll all respond. Asia's gaze dropped to her lap. I know. But I can't help feeling guilty. So many people are risking their lives to protect me. Issei set his food down, crossing the short distance between them. He gently tapped her chin to make her look up. You're worth protecting. Don't doubt that. She blinked rapidly, tears threatening. Issei, he gave her a reassuring nod. Rias wouldn't fight for you if she didn't believe that. Neither would I. He considered that maybe it was time to lighten the mood. Besides, if it gets too crazy, I can always roar at them and see if that freaks them out. He joked half-heartedly, recalling the draconic roar that had scared Freed. Asia gave a soft giggle, though worry still lingered in her eyes. You're silly. He sat beside her, the subdued laughter easing some of the tension. For a few moments, they just watched the sky, hearts heavy with uncertainty yet comforted by each other's presence. Afternoon old-school building classes ended without incident, though Issei stayed hyper-alert. When the final bell rang, he and Asia headed to the Occult Research Club. A hush hung over the corridor. Even the usual gossiping students seemed subdued, as though sensing an undercurrent of unease. They entered the familiar lounge area to find Rias, Akeno, Kiba, and Kaneko already there. Sona and Tsubaki were also present, which was unusual. Sona rarely involved herself too directly with Rias's internal affairs unless there was a major threat. Rias folded her hands atop the desk, expression grim. We just received troubling news from one of Sona's informants. A small group of fallen angels, perhaps 3 or 4, were spotted entering Kuo. They aren't Reynare, but they may be connected to her. Sona stepped forward, adjusting her glasses. They were identified by residual traces of demonic wards that got disrupted. Likely mid-level fallen. Not an army, but enough to cause havoc if we're not prepared. Akino's brow furrowed. Reynare must have called them in as backup. Issei clenched his fists, a surge of protective anger filling him. So we can't wait around. What's the plan? Sona cast a sidelong glance at Rias, allowing her to take the lead. Rias nodded, rising from her seat. We propose a coordinated stakeout. These new fallen are believed to be staying at a deserted factory on the outskirts of Kuo. We'll confront them there, hopefully before they can regroup with Reynare. Kiba touched the hilt of a practice blade at his waist. I'm ready whenever. Kaneko folded her arms. We can corner them, but if Reynare's also there. Rias glanced at Sona. Your peerage will contain the perimeter, correct? Sona inclined her head. We'll ensure no one escapes or calls for further reinforcements. Tsubaki and I will maintain a barrier around the factory. Issei looked to Rias. I'm coming too. She paused, meeting his gaze. Issei, it could be dangerous. We don't know how many or how strong they are. He stepped forward. I'm not sitting on the sidelines while Asia's life is threatened, and if Reynare shows up, I need to face her, or at least help. Rias studied him, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. All right, but promise me you won't charge in alone. A small grin crossed his lips. Deal. Twilight abandoned factory, outskirts of Kuo. Wind whistled through broken windows and rusted metal. The sprawling factory complex loomed against a dim sky, its towers and chimneys silhouetted in the fading light. Rias's peerage and Sona's, positioned farther out, approached cautiously. Issei walked beside Kiba, while Asia stayed back with Sona for safety. The plan was for Asia to remain outside the immediate battle zone, protected by Sona's barrier and her peerage. Asia protested, but Rias insisted. They couldn't risk losing Twilight healing to an ambush. Akeno hovered overhead, her wings of light and darkness shimmering. Kaneko advanced on foot, aura coiled tight, ready to pounce. Rias led the group, power of destruction visibly crackling around her fingertips. As they entered a wide courtyard littered with debris, a mocking laugh echoed from above. Well, looks like the devils came out to play. Issei's eyes darted upward. 3 fallen angels stood on a catwalk near the top of a crumbling silo. Each sported 2 black wings, energy spears glimmering in their hands. One, presumably their leader, smirked down at the group. Where's Reynare? Rias demanded, voice amplified by her power. The lead fallen snickered. She's out, but she told us to give you a warm welcome. A flick of his wrist, and multiple spears of light hurtled down. Rias responded with a wave of destructive magic, vaporizing the projectiles midair, but the clash rattled the entire factory. The Fallen launched into the sky, black wings beating, preparing for a second volley. Kiba and Kaneko darted to the factory's flank, looking for higher ground. Akeno ascended, electricity crackling around her. Issei glanced at Rias, who nodded. "Go," she said. "Don't let them regroup." He sprinted into the chaos, inside the factory steel walkways. Amid twisted machinery and half-collapsed catwalks, Issei chased one of the Fallen who had broken off from the main group. The Fallen soared overhead, occasionally throwing light spears that Issei dodged, letting them slam into rusty walls. Issei found a tall ladder and climbed rapidly, trying to reach the catwalk above. The swirling red-black aura in his chest thrummed with anticipation. "I can't let them call Rainare or gather more reinforcements." He vaulted onto the upper platform, landing in a crouch. The Fallen hovered a few meters away, sneering. "You're just a human. Don't you know better than to challenge an angel Fallen or not?" Issei forced a confident grin. "You talk big. Let's see if you can back it up." With a roar, the Fallen dove, spear crackling. Issei braced himself, feeling that now familiar heat surge under his skin. He dashed forward, arm raised to block. The spear clashed with his aura, sparks flying. The Fallen gasped, eyes widening at the strange force that negated his holy weapon. Recovering quickly, the Fallen swung again, this time forcing Issei to twist aside. A chunk of the walkway rail evaporated under the spear's light. "One good hit and I'm done for," Issei thought, adrenaline spiking. He lashed out with a punch, channeling raw draconic power. It caught the Fallen in the side, eliciting a pained grunt. The Fallen stumbled, wings flaring to maintain balance. Issei pressed the advantage, launching a swift kick that collided with the Fallen's chest, sending him skidding across the catwalk. Metal screeched under the impact. The Fallen spat blood, eyes narrowing in both fear and rage. "What are you?" he hissed. Issei dashed in, determined not to give him time to regroup. But the Fallen countered, weaving a light dagger that slashed across Issei's arm. Pain flared, a searing burn. He winced but powered through, landing another punch to the Fallen's sternum. A red-black aura flared around his fist, blasting the Fallen through a half-collapsed wall. The entire structure rattled as the Fallen tumbled into the next chamber. Issei panted, clutching the wound on his arm. He watched the dust settle, waiting to see if the Fallen was still conscious. Silence, aside from dripping water and the distant crashes of other battles. Adjacent chamber. Kaneko's perspective. While Issei fought upstairs, Kaneko prowled through the lower level. A second Fallen had darted away, hoping to flank the devils. She could sense the faint flicker of his aura in the gloom. The air smelled of rust and mildew. Her cat-like senses honed in on a faint movement behind a stack of crates. She quietly crept closer. She heard labored breathing her target. In one graceful motion, she sprang over the crates, fists glowing with demonic energy. The Fallen yelped in surprise, barely managing to raise a spear to block her strike. Even so, the force of her punch sent him staggering backward. He was a lean man with wild eyes, hair matted from the damp. "D-damn you, devil brat." Kaneko remained expressionless, pressing her advantage. She ducked under a swipe of the spear, stepping inside his guard to land a brutal uppercut. The Fallen's head snapped back. He tried to retaliate, but Kaneko was too fast, weaving and landing another blow to his abdomen. He crumpled, coughing. "You, little monster," he wheezed. Kaneko didn't relish violence, but she knew hesitation could be fatal. She delivered a final hammer fist that snapped the spear in two and knocked the Fallen unconscious. She stood over him, breathing heavily, scanning the area for signs of more enemies. The sounds of distant confrontation echoed from above, light explosions and demonic energy blasts. She took a moment to secure the Fallen, using a binding circle Rias had taught her. He wouldn't be going anywhere soon. Rooftop-level Akinos clash high above the factory floor. Akeno engaged in a fierce aerial duel with the third Fallen. Lightning crackled around her fingertips, the air thick with ozone. The Fallen flung spear after spear of light, each one sizzling through the air. Akano laughed lightly, her tone almost playful. Is that all you've got? She teased, weaving through the barrage with graceful wingbeats. She retaliated with arcs of lightning, forcing the fallen to dodge frantically. A near miss singed the tip of his feathers, eliciting a snarl. You devils think you're superior? He spat. Just wait until Rainare unleashes her plan. Akano arched an eyebrow. Plan? Enlighten me. He bared his teeth. I'd rather see you burn. Summoning a larger spear, he hurled it at her chest. She deftly spun aside, and the spear collided with a rusted crane behind her, blasting it to pieces. Akano frowned, seriousness replacing her playful grin. You're making a mess of my territory, she said, voice dropping. I don't like that. She clapped her hands together, and a roiling thundercloud formed overhead, swirling with demonic energy. The fallen realized too late he was trapped in her storm. Bolts of lightning rained down, each one guided by Akino's will. The fallen tried to escape, but a direct hit struck him in the back, sending him careening into a tangle of steel beams. He crashed with a metallic thud, unmoving. Akano dismissed the storm, her face impassive. Looks like we'll get no answers from you right now, she murmured, glancing at his charred form. He was unconscious but alive, if barely. She descended to secure him before rejoining the others. Ruined corridor. Issei versus Fallen, aftermath. Issei carefully crept into the dusty chamber where he'd knocked the first fallen. Broken chunks of concrete and twisted rebar lay everywhere. A faint cough alerted him that his opponent was still conscious. The fallen stirred amidst the rubble, glaring with hate-filled eyes. Damn devil sympathizer, the fallen snarled weakly. Let me go, or you'll. Issei held up a hand. Yeah, I've heard it all before. Where's Rainare? What's her plan? The fallen spat a wad of blood at the ground. I'll never talk to the likes of you. Frustration flared within Issei, but he tried to keep his composure. She's planning to bring an army here, isn't she? How many are we talking about? Silence, defiant. Issei glowered. Fine. Let's see if Rias has ways of making you talk. He stepped forward to subdue the fallen with a magical restraint circle. Though he wasn't fully skilled in such spells, he knew enough from Rias's crash course. Suddenly, a flash of light filled the chamber. The fallen bit down on something a small orb clutched in his hand. A swirl of energy wrapped around his body, and he let out a ragged laugh. You devils won't get anything from me. His form began to disintegrate, turning to dust before Issei's eyes. No, Issei exclaimed, lunging forward. But he was too late. The fallen's body dissolved, leaving only empty air and a faint shimmer of light. Some sort of suicide charm. They'd rather die than be interrogated. Panting, Issei slammed a fist into the wall. Damn it. He could only hope the others had captured someone more cooperative. Factory courtyard reunion. Having secured or defeated the three fallen, the members of Rias's peerage regrouped outside in a cracked concrete courtyard. Sona and Tsubaki approached as well, their magical barrier still glimmering faintly around the perimeter. Rias surveyed the group. Kaneko and Akano each had an unconscious fallen angel bound with demonic restraints. Kiba had joined them, unscathed. Issei approached last, frustration etched on his face. One got away? Rias asked him, noticing the glare in his eyes. He shook his head. He used some suicide charm. Evaporated before I could get answers. Kaneko nudged the battered fallen she'd captured. This one is alive but out cold. Akano gestured at hers. Mine's unconscious too, but he might wake soon enough to interrogate. Rias nodded, relief that they at least had potential sources of information. Good work, everyone. She turned to Sona. We'll move them to the old school building and place them in a secure magic circle for questioning. Sona agreed. I'll have Tsubaki assist you. My peerage can continue monitoring the area to make sure no additional fallen slip through. Issei ran a hand through his hair, trying to calm down. So we have two captives. That's something. Rias placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We'll find out what Rainare's planning, she said softly. Let's go. Evening Occult Research Club. Interrogation. The battered fallen prisoners were placed in a reinforced basement chamber under the old school building, ringed with glowing runes that suppressed their powers. Rias, Akano, and Sona looked on while Issei, Kiba, and Kaneko guarded the entrance. Asia waited upstairs, understandably nervous. When the first fallen stirred back to consciousness, he let out a groan of pain, his ings twitching uselessly against the binding. He glared hatefully at Rias. "You devils, we'll never submit." Rias maintained a regal composure, arms folded. "We only want information. Answer our questions, and we might let you go." He sneered. "Likely story." Sona stepped forward, adjusting her glasses. "If you refuse, we have other ways." Her tone was cool, authoritative. Behind her, Tsubaki silently channeled a scrying spell. The Fallen's eyes flicked between them, realization dawning that he was outmatched. Rias pressed on. "Rainare, what is she plotting?" A tense beat of silence, then a reluctant snarl. "She's summoning a small regiment of loyal Fallen to Kuo. Most are mid-level like us, but there's talk of someone stronger backing her if she can prove Twilight healing is within reach." Akeno frowned. "Someone stronger?" The Fallen shifted, clearly uneasy. "Some of the Grigori higher-ups have an interest in unique sacred gears, especially ones that can heal devils or boost dragon powers. I only know rumors." Rias's voice tightened. "What about Issei Hyodo? We know Rainare sees something draconic in him." The Fallen let out a short, bitter laugh. "That's the rumor. She wants to capture him, too. If he's truly host to some unstoppable dragon force, imagine the power she could harness." He spat at the ground. "She's obsessed with earning favor from the Grigori's top ranks." Issei listened from the doorway, anger swirling in his gut. So Rainare wanted to use him as a trophy as well, not just Asia. Sona's gaze sharpened. "When is this regiment arriving?" The Fallen hesitated, fear and spite warring in his eyes. "Soon. Could be days. Could be less if Rainare moves faster. We were the scouting team." Akino's aura crackled with anger. "So she's planning to strike soon, with enough numbers to overwhelm us if we're not ready." The Fallen glared defiantly. "You devils have no idea what's coming. This town will burn if you stand in the Grigori's way." Rias exchanged a look with Sona, both wearing grim expressions. "We'll see about that," Rias said quietly. "Thank you. That's all we need." A nod from Sona, and Tsubaki recast a binding on the Fallen, putting him back into a forced slumber. The second captive was still unconscious. Kiba had tried to wake him, but the injuries from Akino's lightning storm were too severe for coherent speech. Issei stepped into the chamber. "So she's coming soon." Rias nodded solemnly. "It appears so. We've got limited time to prepare." Sona spoke calmly. "Then we must gather our defenses. My peerage and yours, Rias, plus any allies we can trust to protect Kuo." Issei swallowed, mind racing. "We're really heading for a full-scale battle." Akeno looked at him, eyes determined. "Yes, and we'll fight to protect Asia, you, and this entire town." Kaneko and Kiba, who joined them, nodded in unison. The tension was heavy, but a sense of unity bound them all. Rainare's invasion plan had turned from a vague threat into an imminent reality. Occult Research Club lounge strategy meeting. They moved upstairs to the lounge, letting the Fallen remain locked in the basement. Asia stood as they entered, worry etched on her face. She approached Rias. "Did you learn anything?" Rias took a seat, gesturing for everyone else to do the same. "Yes. Rainare is gathering a regiment of Fallen. Mid-level mostly, but possibly with higher-tier support. We have to assume they'll attack soon." Asia's face paled. "Oh no," Issei gently rubbed her arm. "We'll get through this." Rias inclined her head. "We have the advantage of home territory and a decent alliance. Sona's group will stand with us. Plus, my brother and other high-ranking devils might lend support if we can prove the threat is significant enough. But we might have to handle most of it ourselves before reinforcements can arrive." Akeno placed a hand on her hip, brow furrowed. "We should position lookouts at Kuo's borders. Possibly set up teleportation circles for quick movement." Kiba added, "We can also fortify certain areas, like the school and Issei's apartment, to protect Asia." Kaneko quietly sipped tea, then said, "We'll need to keep an eye on normal humans. A large-scale battle could endanger civilians." Rias nodded at each suggestion. "Agreed." Akeno, set up barrier spells around key locations. Kiba and Kaneko, coordinate with Sona's peerage for external patrols. I'll handle contacting the underworld to see if any high-class devils are willing to assist or at least stand by. Then her gaze landed on Issei. And you, I need you to train. Your power is formidable, but you lack control. If we're facing an army of fallen, you'll need every bit of skill. He blinked, remembering the raw fury he'd unleashed on Freed and the fallen. Train how? Akeno smiled, somewhat slyly. We have some ideas. The next day, training grounds, early morning, before sunrise, Rias led Issei and Asia to a hidden training field near the edge of Kuo, an abandoned sports complex they'd warded against prying eyes. The plan was for Issei to push his draconic power in a controlled environment. Asia came along to observe and help with healing if needed. Issei stood in the dewy grass, the first hints of dawn lightening the sky. He stretched, heart pounding at the prospect of tapping into that mysterious energy. Rias approached, wearing a tracksuit rather than her usual uniform, a determined look on her face. "All right," she began, voice echoing slightly in the crisp morning air. "Let's see if we can draw out more of that aura. Try to focus on the sensation you feel in battle, the heat and roar inside you." Issei closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. Freed's memory flickered through his mind. The rage, the protective instinct. That swirl of red and black. He tensed his muscles, searching for that internal spark. Asia stood off to the side, hands clasped anxiously. She bit her lip, remembering how Issei's body had glowed with draconic aura in dire moments. "Please be safe," she silently pleaded. Issei exhaled, pushing outward. "Come on." At first, nothing happened. Then a faint shimmer ignited across his arms, swirling patterns of red and black that flickered like embers. His eyes snapped open, breath hitching. "Yes," Rias urged. "Hold that feeling. Amplify it." He tried to push harder, and a wave of energy flared around him, kicking up grass and dust in a miniature whirlwind. Asia gasped, shielding her face. Rias widened her stance, her own power stirring to brace against the sudden outburst. Issei struggled to maintain control. The aura rippled wildly, threatening to overwhelm him. Images of a boundless red sky, an immense dragon silhouette, and a voice whispering "child of dragons" flooded his mind. He stumbled, nearly dropping to one knee. Rias dashed forward, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Focus," she said firmly. "Center yourself. Don't let it consume you." Gritting his teeth, Issei inhaled again, trying to calm the raging tide inside. Slowly, the swirling aura stabilized, hugging his form like a second skin. The ground stopped trembling. "There you go," Rias said, her voice mixing relief and pride. "You're controlling it." Issei panted, sweat beading on his forehead. "This is intense." From the sidelines, Asia's eyes shone with awe. She'd never seen him hold that power so steadily. The fierce aura gave him an almost regal bearing, as if some ancient dragon's presence draped over his shoulders. Rias took a step back. "Now, try channeling that energy into a single strike." He nodded. Looking around, he spotted a large boulder near the field's edge. He concentrated, feeling the surging might in his fists. Then, with a loud shout, he rushed the boulder and slammed his fist into it. Crack! The massive rock split cleanly, shards of stone exploding in every direction. The shockwave rattled the ground, a visible wave of red Beelk energy radiating from the impact point. Asia covered her mouth in astonishment. "That's incredible," she breathed. Issei stared at his own hand, chest heaving. Wow, he'd shattered the boulder like it was made of plaster. Freed had seen only a fraction of this potential. Rias managed a confident smile. "Impressive. Keep practicing this. If you can replicate that power in battle while staying in control, you'll be a force to be reckoned with." Asia hurried over. "Are you okay?" She ran her hands over him, checking for strain or injuries. He gave a shaky laugh. "Just a little drained," he admitted, "but I feel good." Rias nodded. "Rest a bit, then we'll go again." Issei sat on the grass, gulping water from a bottle Asia handed him. His mind whirled with what he'd just done. He sensed there was still more inside, waiting. But how far could he push before it overwhelmed him? The dream visions of the red sky, the black void, that paternal roar, did it hint at even greater heights? "I'll keep training," he vowed silently. "I won't let Rainare or her army harm anyone." Afternoon school hallway. After the morning training, Issei felt surprisingly energized, though physically sore. He and Asia attended classes as usual. Lunchtime approached, and he walked through the hallway, his mind half-focused on the tasks Rias had set for him. He noticed Akano waving from down the corridor, a playful smile on her lips. He changed course, weaving through the throng of students. "Hey," he greeted as he approached. "What's up?" She held out a small bento box. "I made extra lunch. Thought you might be hungry after this morning's training." A flush of appreciation warmed his cheeks. "Thanks, Akano. That's really nice of you." In the back of his mind, he recalled the intimacy he'd shared with Rias. Yet here was Akano, also being sweet. It reminded him the girls in the peerage each had their own connections to him, some more teasing than others. They found a quieter spot near a window. Akino's eyes sparkled with amusement as she watched him dig into the food. "So, how's controlling your dragon aura?" He paused between bites. "It's coming along. Rias has me focusing on controlling the surges. I can maintain it longer without feeling like it'll tear me apart." She nodded thoughtfully. "Good. If we're about to face a horde of fallen, we need you at your best." Also, her voice dropped a notch. "I'm curious about how it feels. That power, does it make your heart race? Is it exhilarating?" He blinked, trying to put it into words. "It's like fire in my veins, but also a sense of freedom. Like I could tear down any obstacle. But it's dangerous. If I lose focus, it could backfire." Akino's eyes gleamed. "Sounds intense." She leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "You know, I like intense things. There's a thrill in pushing limits." His heart skipped a beat at her suggestive tone. He still wasn't entirely used to Akino's bold flirtations. Clearing his throat, he forced a grin. "I guess so." She chuckled, sitting back. "Relax, I'm just teasing. But I do think your power is amazing. I'm glad you're on our side." Emotions stirred within him, gratitude, attraction, and confusion all at once. He wasn't a virgin to romance anymore. Rias had made her feelings clear, and Asia also looked at him with deep affection. Now Akino's playful interest added another layer to the swirling harem dynamic. Focus on the battles, not just the kisses, he told himself, though a part of him enjoyed the attention. Evening occult research club. War council. The day flew by, tension thickening with each hour. By evening, Rias convened everyone in the lounge: Issei, Asia, Kiba, Kaneko, Akano, plus Sona and Tsubaki. A large map of Kuo was spread across the table. Rias tapped a few marked points. "We've set up barrier arrays here, here, and here. If Reinare's force crosses these lines, we'll know immediately." Sona pointed to the outskirts. "My peerage will cover the main roads into Kuo, forcing the fallen to either confront us or sneak through less accessible routes." Kiba and Kaneko exchanged nods, each armed and prepared. Akano crossed her arms, lightning dancing around her fingertips. "We'll be ready." Issei studied the map, noticing his apartment's location had a special defensive marking. "So Asia and I remain here with Rias's group if they breach the central district?" Rias nodded. "Yes. The second they appear, we'll move to intercept. Asia's safety is paramount." Asia fidgeted with her sleeves. "I'm sorry for causing so much trouble." Kaneko placed a gentle hand on Asia's shoulder. "Stop saying that." A small smile tugged at Asia's lips. Rias glanced at them, satisfaction in her gaze. "Good. We're united." She shifted to a more serious tone. "Everyone, stay vigilant. We suspect the attack could come at any time, possibly tonight, possibly tomorrow. If Reinare truly wants to catch us off guard, she'll strike soon." They all acknowledged the directive. The meeting broke, each member departing to finalize preparations or rest. Issei escorted Asia out, tension coiling in his gut like a sprain. War felt inevitable, an actual small-scale war in Kuo's streets. Late-night rooftop of Kuo Academy. Sleep eluded Issei again. So he found himself on the academy's rooftop, staring out at the silent town under a half-moon sky. The wind was chilly, rustling his hair. "She'll come soon," he told himself. "Am I ready?" The roof door creaked open behind him. He turned to see Rias stepping out, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. "I thought I'd find you here," she said softly. He watched her approach, heart tightening at how lovely she looked in the moonlight. Just thinking. Rias joined him at the railing, gazing over the same quiet city. We've been through a lot in a short time, she mused. Freed, Rainare, and now a potential invasion. Issei gave a humorless laugh. Yeah. Hard to believe it's only been a few days since Freed was taken down. She glanced at him, her expression gentle. How are you holding up, really? He weighed his answer. Honestly, I'm scared, but also determined. I can't let Rainare harm Asia or drag me off to the Grigori. I just won't let that happen. Rias's eyes shone with pride. She slipped her hand into his. We'll stand together. You, me, everyone. This might be the biggest threat we've faced, but we're not alone. A swirl of warmth filled his chest. He turned to face her fully. Their gazes locked, and a quiet understanding passed between them. She leaned in, pressing a soft, lingering kiss to his lips. This time, Issei kissed back immediately, no hesitation. When they broke apart, they remained close, foreheads touching. Her voice wavered with emotion. I care about you, Issei, and I won't let you fight alone. He swallowed hard, heart-hammering. Rias, A sudden vibration from her phone interrupted the moment. She stepped back, retrieving it from her pocket. Akeno? She answered, tone urgent. Issei watched as Rias's features shifted from mild annoyance to alarm. Where? She demanded. Akino's voice was muffled but frantic on the other end. Understood. We'll be there. She hung up, turning to Issei. They've detected a cluster of fallen a few kilometers outside Kuo. Sona's peerage is engaging them now. His pulse kicked into overdrive. Already? Rias nodded, eyes blazing. Yes, we need to move. Outskirts of Kuo midnight skirmish by the time Issei and Rias arrived. The battle was already raging. Sona's peerage various devil students with special abilities clashed with a half-dozen winged figures. Light spears and demonic spells streaked through the sky like fireworks. The area, a deserted highway stretch, was lit by burning headlights and bursts of supernatural energy. Issei's adrenaline spiked at the sight. Is Rainare among them? Rias scanned the fray. I'm not sure. Let's help Sona's group first. They rushed forward, Rias summoning orbs of destruction energy. A fallen soared overhead, launching a barrage of light arrows at Sona. Rias hurled a sphere that collided midair, neutralizing them. Another fallen engaged Tsubaki, who parried with a summoned Naginata of demonic power. Issei locked onto a fallen dropping low to flank one of Sona's rook members. He dashed in, intercepting the ambush. The fallen sneered but had no time to react before Issei's aura-clad fist connected with his shoulder. A sickening crunch followed, and the fallen crashed onto the asphalt with a strangled cry. Sona, you okay? Rias called, noticing the student council president defending another peerage member. Sona's composure was intact, though sweat beaded on her brow. We're managing, she replied tersely, but there are more fallen than expected. Some fled deeper into Kuo, possibly heading for Asia. At that, panic jolted through Issei. Damn it. Rias's features tightened. Kiba, Kaneko, and Akeno are at Kuo's center. They'll protect Asia, but we should hurry. She turned to Sona, flinging another destructive blast at a diving fallen. We'll finish up here quickly. With renewed urgency, they fought harder. Issei's draconic aura flared bright as he pummeled two more fallen, sending them sprawling. Rias's destruction magic roiled, ripping through enemy spears. Sona unleashed a torrent of water-based spells, subduing multiple foes at once. The combined devil forces rapidly gained the upper hand. One by one, the fallen either fell unconscious or fled, battered wings struggling to carry them away. Soon, only faint echoes of flapping wings remained. Some lay on the pavement, groaning or knocked out entirely. Sona's peerage panted, bruised but victorious. Tsubaki surveyed the area with a keen eye. We've secured most, but a few escaped. Rias grimaced. Likely regrouping with Rainare. I fear this was just a diversion. Issei clenched his fists. They're after Asia. I had to go. Rias nodded. Let's hurry back to Kuo Academy or your apartment. Asia might be there. Sona gestured for her peerage to stay, rounding up the fallen enemies. We'll handle things here, Rias. Go protect Asia. Without another word, Rias and Issei sprinted toward a waiting magic circle. The lumps of unconscious fallen receded behind them as they teleported back to the heart of Kuo. Kuo's center streets near Issei's apartment. Stepping out of the teleportation circle, Issei and Rias found themselves in a dimly lit street just blocks from his apartment. The night air crackled with tension. They sprinted through the alleys, scanning for any sign of an attack. Soon, they spotted Kiba standing guard near a broken street lamp. His sword was drawn, and his jacket ripped. He looked relieved when he saw them approach. "Kiba, are you okay?" Rias asked. He nodded, though his breathing was ragged. "We fought off 3 fallen. 1 got away. Asia's inside your apartment with Kaneko and Akano. They're holding the perimeter." Issei's stomach twisted. "Is Asia safe?" "Last I checked, yes," Kiba said. "Rainare hasn't shown up yet, but we sense a strong aura approaching." As if on cue, a shrill laugh echoed from the next street over. "Oh, devils, come out wherever you are." A swirl of black feathers danced into view. Rainare. She stood in the center of the intersection, flanked by 2 new fallen. Her wings extended with confidence. Light spears hovered around her, bobbing menacingly. She spotted Issei and Rias, a grin spreading across her face. "There you are." Issei felt white-hot anger surge. "Rainare." She shrugged coyly. "Miss me? I'm here to collect the ex-nun and you, dear draconic boy." Her gaze flicked to Rias. "Step aside, Gremory princess. I might spare your territory if you play nice." Rias glared, power of destruction swirling around her. "You'll never have Asia or Issei." Rainare's eyes narrowed, malice radiating from her. "Then you die. Fallen, attack." Her 2 subordinates lunged forward, launching spears at Kiba and Rias. Kiba parried with his blade, sparks dancing. Rias blasted the second attacker, forcing him to retreat. Issei locked eyes with Rainare, who hovered confidently a few steps away. "You've caused enough chaos," he growled. "I'm ending this." She smirked. "You, end me? Fried said you were strong, but I doubt you can handle me at full power." He channeled his aura, red-black energy flaring around him. "We'll see." Street battle. Issei versus Rainare. Rainare moved with supernatural speed, wings propelling her forward. A luminous spear of light glowed in her hand, aimed for Issei's chest. He dodged, feeling the searing heat as it grazed his shoulder. The pain shot through him, but he clenched his jaw, retaliating with a swift punch. She evaded, flapping her wings to gain altitude. "Nice try," she taunted, hurling another spear. Issei dove behind a parked car, which exploded under the impact. Shrapnel flew in all directions. Across the street, Rias and Kiba battled the other 2 fallen, trying to keep them from interfering. Streetlights flickered amid bursts of devil energy and holy light. A sense of chaos reigned, but Issei kept his focus on Rainare. "I have to keep her away from Asia." He sprinted from cover, fists surging with draconic power. Raw! He unleashed a concentrated burst that formed a small shockwave. Rainare's eyes widened, but she managed to conjure a shield of black feathered energy, halting the brunt of his attack. Still, she was pushed back, surprise flickering across her face. "So Fried was right," she muttered, landing on a cracked sidewalk. "You really do have dragon strength. How fascinating." Her lips curled into a sadistic grin. "All the more reason to capture you." Issei's blood boiled. "Keep dreaming." They clashed again this time. Issei closed the distance fast, forcing Rainare to engage in close combat. He slammed a punch into her side, but she twisted, delivering a slash with a light dagger she conjured. White-hot agony seared across his ribs. He gasped, nearly dropping to one knee. Rainare followed up with a spinning kick that caught him in the shoulder, sending him sprawling. Pain flared, but he rolled away just in time to avoid her downward spear thrust, which cracked the asphalt where he'd lain. "Ha!" she crowed. "You're tough, but you lack finesse." Issei gritted his teeth, pushing himself upright. Blood trickled from the slash on his ribs. "I'm just getting started." Summoning that primal fury, he let out a guttural roar. The aura around him intensified, swirling in a vortex. Rainare's smug expression wavered. She conjured multiple spears and hurled them. Issei bellowed, unleashing a wave of red-black energy that disintegrated most of them mid-flight. A couple spears grazed him, but the aura lessened their impact. Slam! He launched himself forward with explosive force, tackling Reynare. They crashed into the side of a building, shattering windows. She coughed, losing her grip on one of her spears. Issei pressed an arm against her throat, the aura crackling around them both. "You're not taking Asia or me anywhere," he hissed, voice reverberating with an undercurrent of draconic rage. Reynare's eyes blazed, but a flicker of fear flashed in them. "I won't go down that easily." She jammed a hidden dagger into Issei's side, right where his aura had weakened. He gasped, the blade searing with holy energy. He staggered, grip slipping. With a savage elbow, she freed herself, flapping her wings to gain altitude. Her own breath came in ragged gasps. "Damn you," she spat, trembling with a mix of anger and pain from Issei's assault. Reinforcement arrives. Akano and Kaneko. A rush of air signaled a new arrival. Akano descended in a flash of lightning, eyes blazing. Kaneko followed, dashing along the street. They jinned Rias and Kiba, cornering the two lesser fallen. Akano quickly neutralized one with a precise bolt, while Kiba sliced through the other's spear. Freed from those distractions, Rias turned her full focus on Reynare. "Your subordinates have fallen," Rias declared, stepping forward, crimson power flaring at her fingertips. "You're alone." Reynare glared down at them, clutching her side. "It's not over. I'll call more." Despite her words, her eyes darted around, desperation creeping in. Kaneko spotted Issei, staggering from the holy blade wound. She rushed to his side. "Issei." He pressed a hand to the injury, groaning, "I'm fine." Reynare seized the moment of hesitation, gathering a massive spear of light in both hands, swirling with black feathers. "Die!" she screamed, unleashing it. The spear arced downward, big as a javelin, aimed at the group on the ground. Rias reacted instantly, forming a barrier of destructive energy. The spear collided with an earth-shattering roar, cracks forming along Rias's barrier. She strained, sweat beading on her brow, but managed to hold it off. Then, with a final push, she redirected the spear upward, sending it spiraling into the night sky before it exploded. A backdraft of wind swept the street, rattling battered cars and street signs. Reynare breathed heavily, wings trembling. She was running out of stamina, but so were the devils. Issei clung to consciousness despite the pain. He glimpsed Asia across the intersection, stepping forward with fear in her eyes. "Issei," she cried. She'd ventured out, likely escorted by Kiba earlier, to see if he was hurt. "No, Asia, stay back," he shouted. Too late. Reynare spotted Asia. A wild gleam of triumph lit her face. "There you are." She dived, spear forming once more. "I'll take you now and finish this." Asia froze in fear. Rias and Akano were too far to intercept. Issei's heart nearly stopped. He called on his draconic aura, ignoring the pain, launching himself forward with a roar. Time seemed to slow. Reynare swooped in, spear poised to impale Asia. Issei tackled Asia aside, absorbing the spear's blow directly into his back. Agony blasted through him, the holy energy tearing at his flesh. He let out a raw scream, vision going white. Asia shrieked. "Issei," Reynare snarled, flapping backward. She intended to follow up, but a surge of power erupted from Issei's battered form. Despite the crippling pain, he refused to go down. With a guttural roar, he unleashed a furious burst of red-black aura that slammed into Reynare, sending her crashing into a lamppost. Crunch. Reynare lay there, coughing up blood. Her spear dissipated. She tried to rise but collapsed, wings crumpled. Asia rushed to Issei's side, tears streaming. "Issei, oh God, you're hurt." He gasped for air, barely staying upright. "I had to protect you." A halo of shimmering green light enveloped him. Asia's twilight healing. She poured all her power into mending the holy wound, tears mixing with the glow. Slowly, the searing pain receded, though he still felt weak. Final stand. Reynare defeated. Reynare struggled to her feet, battered and trembling. Rias advanced, fury etched on her face. "Enough," the crimson-haired devil spat. "You brought chaos, death, and pain to Kuo long enough." The battered fallen coughed, a bitter laugh escaping. "It's never enough. The Grigori, they'll come for you all." Rias's eyes flashed. She formed a sphere of swirling crimson destruction between her palms. Akeno, Kiba, and Kaneko encircled Rainare, ensuring no escape. Asia continued healing Issei as he watched, his heart pounding. Rainare's laughter died in her throat when she saw Rias's sphere intensify with lethal intent. Wait. But Rias didn't hesitate. With a single motion, she hurled the orb. It crashed into Rainare, engulfing her in a blaze of destructive power. The fallen angel let out a final, echoing scream before disintegrating into nothingness, black feathers scattering in the wind. A heavy silence fell. The only sounds were Asia's sobs as she channeled healing into Issei, and the distant crackling of damaged streetlights. Rias lowered her trembling hands, anger and relief mixing in her eyes. She's gone, Kiba said quietly, sword still in hand. Kaneko exhaled, shoulders sagging. Finally. Akeno wiped sweat from her brow, mouth set in a grim line. That's the end of Rainare. Asia's healing aura dimmed as she collapsed against Issei, exhausted. He wrapped an arm around her, wincing but grateful. It's over, he murmured, hardly believing it. Freed and Rainare, both threats dealt with. Rias turned to them, her face softening at the sight of Asia and Issei clinging to each other. She moved closer, voice gentle. Are you okay? Issei nodded shakily. I will be, thanks to Asia. He felt the last of the holy burn fade under her care, though exhaustion weighed heavily on him. Rias offered a hand, helping him stand. Asia rose too, trembling from the emotional toll. They looked around at the aftermath. Battered streets, unconscious or fleeing fallen. The Devil Group had won, but the cost had been high. Don Kuo Academy rooftop time blurred as they cleaned up, Sona's peerage arriving to handle the unconscious foes. Sunrise cast a pale glow over Kuo's skyline by the time the group reassembled on the Academy's rooftop, less for scenic views, more for a moment of shared relief. Asia leaned against Issei, drained but safe. Kiba and Kaneko stood by the railing, quietly surveying the horizon. Akeno tried to fix her rumpled uniform, electricity occasionally sparking in leftover adrenaline. Rias stepped away from a phone call with the underworld, informing them the threat had been neutralized. She approached Issei, offering a tired but genuine smile. We did it. Rainare's threat is gone. He closed his eyes, letting the weight of that sink in. Freed was gone. Rainare was gone. The immediate threat to Asia and Kuo had been ended. I can't believe it's really over. Asia glanced up, tears shining in her eyes. Thank you. All of you. I don't have the words. Akeno patted Asia's shoulder. We're a family now, in our own way. We protect each other. Kaneko nodded, silent affirmation in her golden eyes. Kiba gave a small smile of agreement. Rias wrapped an arm around Issei's waist, mindful of his injuries. You fought bravely. Both of you. She hesitated, then added, I'm proud, Issei. He felt his cheeks warm despite the exhaustion. Proud. That word meant a lot coming from Rias. He gently squeezed her hand. Couldn't have done it without your training. And Asia's healing. A comfortable silence settled. The storm of battles had passed, leaving them a moment of peace on the rooftop. They watched the sun's first rays crest the buildings, painting the town in soft gold. Birds chirped tentatively, as if unsure it was safe to greet the day. Later that morning, Occult Research Club lounge, the group returned to the old school building for a final debrief. Sona and Tsubaki joined briefly, confirming their peerage had apprehended or driven off the remaining fallen. Rias thanked them, concluding a formal alliance for future threats. Once Sona left, the atmosphere in the club lounge lightened. Asia made tea, her gentle desire to help shining through. Issei sank into a couch, wincing as the leftover soreness pulsed along his side. Rias hovered nearby, concerned. Let me see that cut again, she said softly. Asia came over too, placing a healing hand on him. Though the wound was mostly closed, he still needed rest. You really pushed yourself, Asia scolded gently. He gave a sheepish laugh. I do it again. Catching her shy smile, he reached for her hand, giving it a light squeeze. Akeno, noticing the affectionate exchange, let out a playful giggle. My, Issei, you're quite the ladies' man these days. Rias and Asia doting on you. Rias rolled her eyes, cheeks faintly pink, aching. But a hint of amusement danced in Rias's gaze as well. Kaneko sipped her tea quietly, a tiny smile on her usually stoic face. Kiba gave a polite cough, also smiling. Despite the teasing, the mood in the room felt buoyant, victorious. Freed and Rainare had cast dark shadows over Kuo, but they were vanquished. Afternoon, a private moment with Rias later, the others gave Issei and Rias some space. They retreated to a quieter corner of the building, away from prying eyes. Rias leaned against a windowsill, arms crossed loosely, hair still slightly messy from the night's battles. Issei leaned on the wall opposite her, arms folded. She broke the silence first. "How do you feel?" He shrugged, a small smile forming. "Tired. Relieved. Still kinda can't believe we did it." She stepped closer, close enough that he caught the soft hint of her perfume. "You were incredible. Rainare was formidable. But you held your ground. You protected Asia, even took a hit that could have killed you." He looked down, remembering the searing pain of the holy spear. "I couldn't let her die." Rias exhaled, a subtle tremor in her voice. "That's what I admire about you, Issei. Your determination, your willingness to risk everything for those you care about." She gently placed a hand on his cheek, guiding his gaze back to hers. Time seemed to slow. He remembered the rooftop kiss, the confessions of feeling. Now they stood here, battered but triumphant, hearts still pounding from the adrenaline. He started, but she pressed a finger to his lips. She leaned in and kissed him deeply, an unspoken outpouring of emotion. He melted into it, arms slipping around her waist, pulling her closer. Her lips were warm, the moment more tender and lingering than any kiss before. When they finally broke apart, they stayed close, foreheads touching. Her cheeks were flushed, breath unsteady. "Sorry," she whispered, though she didn't sound sorry at all. I needed that." He chuckled, brushing a strand of her crimson hair behind her ear. "Don't apologize, I'm not complaining." A faint laugh escaped her, eyes shining. "I'm glad." She rested a hand on his chest. "So, are you still dead set on not becoming a devil?" He hesitated, recalling her earlier offer. "I'm still not sure," he admitted. "I like my freedom. But after seeing how close we came to losing everything, maybe your peerage is the right place for me." She smiled softly. "There's no pressure. I meant what I said before. I care about you first and foremost. Whatever choice you make, I'll respect it." He nodded, relief blooming in his chest. "Thank you." They stood there a while longer, simply enjoying each other's presence and the fact they were both alive and unbroken. Outside, the day continued. Normal life going on for unsuspecting humans. For Issei, though, nothing felt truly normal anymore. But maybe that's okay, he thought, holding Rias close. Evening, a new beginning. By evening, Kuo felt almost peaceful. News of the destructive nighttime battle was contained by devil illusions and quick repairs, ensuring the human populace stayed ignorant. No more fallen sightings cropped up. Sona's watchers confirmed Rainare's faction had scattered or been captured. Issei and Asia walked through the quiet streets, heading back to his apartment. She insisted on staying with him until they could relax and rest properly. The tension that had weighed on them for days lifted somewhat. She glanced at him shyly. "You saved me again." He met her gaze, a soft smile forming. "We saved each other." That wasn't just a line. Her twilight healing had saved his life more than once. Her cheeks colored, but she nodded. "Right." They stopped at a small convenience store to pick up simple dinner ingredients. Asia carried the bag, seemingly excited about the prospect of cooking a normal meal after so much chaos. As they climbed the stairs to his apartment, she paused, turning to him. Her eyes glimmered with sincerity. "Issei, no matter what happens next, I want to stay by your side. Even if more enemies come." Emotion tightened his throat. He reached out, brushing a gentle hand along her cheek. "You will," he promised. "I'm not letting anyone take you away." She beamed, and for a fleeting moment, the turmoil of devils, fallen, and secret dragon power felt distant. They were just two people, forging a bond through trials and tribulations. Inside the apartment, they set about preparing dinner. Asia hummed softly, chopping vegetables while Issei stirred the pot. It was calm, almost domestic, a reminder that peace still existed, no matter how brief, in a life overshadowed by supernatural forces. Later, they ate together at his small table. She giggled at his attempts to make conversation about random things: school gossip, the best TV shows. It felt silly, normal, and liberating all at once. Afterward, Asia tidied up. Issei flopped on the couch, exhaustion washing over him in waves. He dozed off unintentionally, lulled by the day's lingering fatigue. When he awoke, it was late, and Asia was curled up next to him, also asleep. He gently shifted, heart clenching at the sight of her innocent face at rest, safe. No nightmares, no fear. He pulled a light blanket over them, letting his eyes drift shut again. End of Chapter 3 *. Chapter 4. Presented in scene-style segments for clarity and pacing. Fast-paced, character-driven, and weaving in the harem dynamic and Issei's draconic growth. 1 week after Reinare's defeat. Early morning, Issei's apartment. Sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, illuminating the small living room where Issei stretched on a makeshift exercise mat. His body still bore faint scars from the harrowing fight against Reinare, but the worst wounds had long since healed thanks in large part to Asia's twilight healing. He exhaled slowly, feeling the pleasant burn in his muscles. Across the room, Asia knelt on the couch, watching him with quiet fascination. "You've been working out more than usual lately," she commented gently. "Is it to strengthen that power inside you?" Issei finished a set of push-ups, then stood, brushing sweat from his forehead. "In part. Rias wants me to keep honing my control, so I figured building physical endurance can't hurt." Asia's gaze flicked to the faint, swirling crest on his shoulder, almost invisible in the morning light. "Does it still feel different, that draconic energy?" He paused, pressing a hand to his chest. "Yeah. I can sense it more clearly now, like a dormant flame waiting for me to call on it. But it's stable, less likely to flare up uncontrollably." A gentle smile curved her lips. "I'm glad." They shared a quiet moment of contentment before a familiar voice chimed in through the open door. My, Asia, are you just going to watch him sweat?" Akeno teased, stepping inside unannounced. She wore a playful grin and carried a plastic bag full of groceries. Asia blushed, hopping off the couch. "Akeno, you could have knocked." Akeno shrugged with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. "Where's the fun in that?" She set the groceries on the small kitchenette counter. "Rias asked me to gather everyone at the Occult Research Club soon. Looks like something big is happening." Issei exchanged a puzzled look with Asia. "Did she say what?" Akeno shook her head. "Only that a special guest from the underworld is visiting to see Rias. Graphia might be involved." Graphia was Sears's Lucifer's wife, a woman of immense power and authority. If she was coming to Kuo, it likely meant important devil business. Issei felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "All right. I'll get change, then we'll head over." Late morning. Old school building, work lounge. The Occult Research Club felt unusually tense as Issei, Asia, and Akeno entered. Kaneko sat near the corner, nibbling a sweet bun with uncharacteristic nervousness. Kiba stood by the window, arms folded. In the center of the room, Ross Gremory paced. She looked troubled. Beside her was Graphia Lucifuge, regal in her silver hair and maid-like attire. As Issei and the others arrived, Rias gave them a weary smile. Graphia inclined her head politely. "Good, you're here," Rias said, summoning her usual composed tone. "We have some news from the underworld." Graphia stepped forward. "Lady Rias is betrothed to another pure-blood devil, Riser Phoenix, as per arrangements made by her family." A hush fell over the room. Issei blinked, trying to process the statement. "Betrothed?" Akeno set her groceries on a side table, her cheerful demeanor shifting to grim understanding. Asia clasped her hands, eyes widening. Kaneko's ears twitched, clearly displeased. Rias drew a sharp breath. "My father wants to finalize the arrangement soon. I've objected, obviously, but Riser is pushing for a formal rating game to settle the matter. If I lose, the engagement stands and I'll have to marry him." Issei's gut churned at the thought. Rias marrying some arrogant devil from a high-status family. He could already guess how Rias felt about that. "That's insane," he muttered, stepping closer. "They can't just force you, can they?" Graphia's voice carried solemn finality. "In Devil Society, arranged marriages are common among pure-blooded noble families. Rias has the right to challenge Riser via a rating game if she refuses. But if she fails, the marriage is binding. Rias's crimson hair seemed to burn in the morning light as she squared her shoulders. I won't let them decide my future. But Riser's peerage is large and powerful. The Phoenix family is renowned for their regenerative flames. Kiba grimaced, remembering rumors about the Phoenix clan's near immortality. That's going to be difficult to overcome. Kaneko frowned, finishing her snack with an annoyed bite. We'll fight with you, Rias bucko, no matter what. Issei felt his own anger rising. The very idea that someone could claim Rias, someone who had grown so important to him, against her will, made his blood boil. He balled his fists. Rias, we'll beat him. A faint smile appeared on her lips, though worry lingered in her eyes. We'll need all the help we can get. Grafia is here to oversee the official challenge. The match is set for next week. Grafia nodded in confirmation. The match will take place in a replicated battlefield in the underworld. Riser Phoenix and his peerage versus Rias Gremory and hers. Asia carefully raised a hand, voice timid. I'm a devil now, but I'm still learning. Can I help? Rias placed a comforting hand on Asia's shoulder. Of course. Every member of my peerage, she hesitated, glancing at Issei. And every ally who's willing will have a role. Issei swallowed hard, his heart thudding. He wasn't an official devil, but he was determined to stand by Rias. I want in. Let me fight for you. Grafia arched an eyebrow. But you're not part of Rias's peerage. Entering the rating game as a non-devil is unusual. A stubborn streak lit Issei's face. I don't care if it's unusual. I won't let Riser take her away. Grafia studied him, a flicker of curiosity crossing her usually stoic features. Very well. If Lady Rias acknowledges you as an essential member of her team, I won't object. Rias exhaled slowly, relief mingling with gratitude. Thank you, Grafia. Akeno clapped her hands, shifting the mood. Then let's not waste time. We'll need to train, especially if we're facing Phoenix regeneration. Kiba turned from the window, eyes resolute. We only have a week. Let's make the most of it. Rias caught Issei's gaze, and something unspoken passed between them, a promise, a bond. He was determined. This was more than a fight for her freedom. It was about ensuring she could shape her own destiny. Afternoon Kuo Academy Gym, closed session. Rias managed to secure the academy gym for private training, forging temporary devil wards that prevented ordinary students from stumbling in. Mats and training dummies were arranged in rows. Issei arrived with Asia, noticing the rest of the club already splitting into pairs or small groups. Kaneko was practicing her raw physical strikes against a reinforced dummy. Kiba sparred with Akeno, who used mild lightning pulses to enhance her reflexes. Rias turned to Issei, beckoning him over. Let's work on synergy. If you're going to be on the front lines, your draconic aura has to mesh with my demonic power. He nodded, stepping onto the mat. Right. I'm still refining the control. They began with basic offensive drills. Rias launched small orbs of destruction energy while Issei intercepted them, channeling a fraction of his aura into defensive bursts. The first few tries were clumsy, her magic almost knocked him off his feet. But gradually, he found a rhythm. His red-black aura flared when he needed to absorb or redirect the destructive blasts. A wave of satisfaction rippled through him as he managed to dissipate one of Rias's orbs without being blasted backward. She wore a proud smile. Good. You're improving quickly. He grinned, chest heaving. Feels like dancing on a razor's edge. She was about to respond when a gentle voice chimed in. Mind if I join? Asia approached hesitantly, twilight healing faintly glowing in her palms. If you're pushing yourselves this hard, I can help heal minor injuries. Rias patted Asia's shoulder. That's actually perfect. We need to practice with your healing under pressure. In the rating game, you might have to heal me, Issei, or others mid-battle. Asia nodded firmly. I'll do my best. They ran through a scenario. Rias unleashed a moderate burst of power that Issei tried to block. If he took a hit, Asia would quickly patch him up. Over and over, they repeated the drill, honing teamwork. Even though Asia's role was mainly support, she discovered she could also conjure small barriers if she concentrated her healing aura in a defensive form. It wasn't as strong as Rias's or Issei's raw power, but it offered another layer of protection. After an hour of sweat and magical exertion, they paused, gathering near the bleachers for water. Akeno, Kiba, and Kaneko finished their own drills and approached. Kiba saluted, half joking. We've still got a long way to go, but our synergy is improving. Akeno smirked. Riser might be cocky, but we'll give him a surprise, especially with Issei's unique power. Kaneko tilted her head at Issei. You should push it further. But don't hurt yourself. Her blunt tone held a note of concern. Issei flashed a reassuring smile. I won't, promise. Rias's phone chimed another text from Graphia. She skimmed it, lips pursed. Riser's family is moving up the ceremony date if we lose. They're not wasting any time. A hush fell over the group. A fresh wave of determination lit Issei's eyes. We won't lose. Next evening, private grounds near Kuo, training intensifies. On the second night of training, Rias secured a small park outside Kuo, ringed by devil barriers. This allowed them more room to simulate large-scale combat. Akeno and Kiba practiced coordinated attacks on conjured illusions, courtesy of a simple projection circle. Kaneko tested her endurance, lifting heavy boulders with demonic-enhanced strength. Asia worked on simultaneously healing multiple minor wounds with her sacred gear. Meanwhile, Rias and Issei focused on synergy again. But this time, Rias unleashed more powerful blasts, pushing Issei to extremes. Each collision shook the trees, scattering leaves and startling nighttime birds into flight. Scene. Rias and Issei's training. Issei braced himself, aura pulsing in sync with his heart. Rias gathered a swirling orb of destruction the size of a basketball, eyes narrowing. Ready? He nodded, sweat trickling down his temple. Let's do it. She fired the orb. It tore through the air with a roar. Issei inhaled, summoning that draconic flay inside. He thrust his hands forward, letting the red-black aura flood out. The collision created a deafening thunderclap, the ground trembling beneath his feet. At first, he held steady, but the force overwhelmed him bit by bit. His shoes slid backward through the dirt. Gritting his teeth, he roared in defiance, fueling more aura. A fleeting image flashed in his mind, the endless red sky, a colossal dragon silhouette. His arms burned, but he refused to yield. Then, with a final surge, he managed to redirect the destructive orb upward. It soared into the sky, vanishing in a crackle of crimson sparks. Issei collapsed to one knee, panting, arms shaking. Rias rushed forward. Are you okay? She asked, voice edged with concern. He nodded, chest heaving. Yeah. That was heavy. She gently brushed his messy hair aside, relief crossing her features. You did great. You're getting closer to handling my full strength. His gaze flicked up to hers. We'll beat Riser, he breathed. I'll make sure of it. For a moment, their surroundings faded, replaced by the intimate closeness they'd grown to share. Rias reached down, offering her hand, and he let her pull him to his feet. Their eyes lingered on each other, quiet reassurance. Late night, a brief respite after training, the group gathered around a makeshift campfire. Asia had prepared a thermos of hot tea, distributing cups to everyone. The night sky glittered with stars, the air crisp and cool. Kaneko sipped her tea silently, looking more tired than usual. Kiba stared into the flames, deep in thought. Akeno massaged her shoulders, easing knots from the intense training. Rias sat on a log beside Issei, her warmth comforting. At last, Asia spoke, her voice breaking the hush. Rias, would you really have to marry that Riser if we lose? Rias tightened her grip on the paper cup, expression guarded. Yes, she admitted. My family's honor and obligations are at stake. If I fail, I must comply. Akeno's usual playful smirk was nowhere to be seen. But we're not going to let that happen, bucko. Kiba chimed in, voice firm. Exactly. We've already come this far together. No reason to doubt our chances. Kaneko simply murmured, we'll fight as one. Issei cleared his throat, attention squarely on Rias. We'll make sure you have the freedom to choose your own path. Emotions flickered in Rias's eyes, gratitude, hope, and a trace of worry. Thank you. The crackle of the campfire lulled them into a companionable silence. The team, battered by recent battles against Freed and Raynare, had grown tighter than ever. This next challenge was different, less lethal perhaps, but no less critical for Rias's future. 2 days before the raiding game's surprise visitor. They had only 48 hours until the scheduled raiding game. Nerves ran high, but training continued relentlessly. Late in the afternoon, while the group was practicing in the Orc Lounge, a sudden swirl of silver magic formed at the doorway. Graphia emerged, bowing respectfully. "Lady Rias, there is someone else who wishes to speak with you." She stepped aside, revealing a tall figure with long crimson hair and an imposing yet refined aura. Sirzex Lucifer, Rias's older brother and the current Mao. Rias stiffened. "Brother," Sirzex offered a kind smile, though his eyes held seriousness. "I came to see how you're doing, and to wish you luck." The entire peerage immediately snapped to attention, showing respect. Asia fumbled a bow. Issei simply stared, trying to hide his surprise. He hadn't expected to meet the Devil King himself so soon. Sirzex's gaze swept over them, lingering a second on Issei. A flicker of curiosity danced in his expression, as if he sensed something unusual. But he said nothing about that. Instead, he turned back to Rias. "I disapprove of this forced engagement, but I can't override Father's arrangement. The only path is for you to win." Rias inhaled sharply, her frustration evident. "I know. I'm working as hard as I can, but Riser's team is bigger, stronger." Sirzex placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Trust in your peerage. I've watched you grow into a fine leader, Rias. Don't let fear cloud your resolve." She nodded slowly. "Yes, brother." He smiled, stepping back. "I won't interfere further. I just had to see you. And," he added, "I suspect your new ally," his gaze flicked to Issei, "will be a key factor." Issei felt a jolt of nerves. Sirzex Lucifer was recognizing him? "I'll do my best, sir," he managed. Sirzex gave a small nod, then exchanged a look with Graphia, who quietly signaled a teleportation circle. In a flash of silver, they vanished. A moment passed in stunned silence. Then Akano let out a breath. "Well, that was something." Rias forced a wry grin. "My brother always was one for dramatic timing. Let's not disappoint him." Final day of training, the Gauntlet. On the eve of the raiding game, Rias proposed a final, grueling session, a simulated battle pitting Issei, Asia, and Kiba against Akano and Kaneko, with Rias overseeing. The idea was to push them to their limits in a structured environment. Scene: a wide clearing at night. Torches lined the perimeter, flickering in the darkness. The air was crisp, tension palpable. Akano hovered overhead, lightning dancing at her fingertips. Kaneko stood on the ground, poised like a martial artist. Opposite them, Issei flexed his arms, calling on the draconic aura. Kiba held a training sword, face set. Asia lingered in the back, ready with healing spells and small barriers. Rias, standing on a makeshift platform, raised her hand. "Begin." Akano initiated the conflict with a barrage of lightning bolts aimed at Issei. He sprinted forward, aura igniting. Kiba darted around to flank, forcing Kaneko to intercept him. Asia stayed behind a barrier circle, focusing on support. The clearing erupted in chaos. Akano versus Issei. Lightning spears rained down, each crackling with fierce energy. Issei's aura shielded him from most, but stung him with each impact. He grit his teeth, pushing onward. Akano smiled, impressed by his fortitude, but increased her output. Kiba versus Kaneko. A flurry of sword strikes met Kaneko's ironclad fists. She absorbed powerful blows while lashing out with bone-rattling punches. Kiba's agility allowed him to evade her direct hits, but each glancing strike felt like a hammer. Asia. She wove healing streams toward Issei and Kiba whenever they took a hit, her face scrunched in concentration. At the same time, she maintained a slight protective aura, deflecting stray sparks of lightning. Issei forced his way through the storm, each step punishing. He roared, funneling more draconic energy into his legs. With a surge, he leapt higher than he'd ever managed, aiming a punch at Akino's midsection. She narrowly dodged, but the shockwave from his aura rattled her flight path. She hovered backward, cheeks flushed. "That's new, you've improved." He smirked, chest heaving. "I've had good motivation." Down below, Kiba and Kaneko broke apart, both panting. Kaneko's stoic mask cracked with a small grin. "You've gotten faster," she admitted. Kiba gave a polite nod. "And you hit harder. Good thing I've been training with multiple swords." He conjured a second blade, its edge gleaming with demonic power. The clash resumed, relentless. Meanwhile, Asia's forehead beaded with sweat, sustaining multiple healing spells simultaneously drained her. But she refused to let up, especially when she saw Issei take a glancing lightning bolt to the shoulder. Finally, Rias raised a flare of her crimson magic. "All right, that's enough," she called, voice ringing through the clearing. Everyone staggered to a halt, exhaustion evident. The heavy tension dissolved into ragged breathing and wry smiles. Akeno descended, flicking her hair back. "You almost got me there, Issei, impressive." Kaneko wiped her brow, offering Kiba a nod of respect. He grinned, lowering his swords. Issei dropped onto the grass, leaning back on his hands. Asia rushed over, kneeling beside him to check his burns. "That was so intense," she murmured, voice trembling with relief. Rias moved to stand with them, pride radiating in her expression. "You all exceeded my expectations. This is our final practice before the real thing. Rest now, you'll need every ounce of energy for tomorrow." As the group collected themselves, the night sky stretched overhead, a silent witness to their determined efforts. The night before quiet conversations, they returned to the old school building, adrenaline still thrumming. A hush lay over the group as they cleaned up and prepared for bed. Everyone was too tense to joke around much. Tomorrow's rating game loomed like a final exam, but with life-altering consequences. Scene: Issei and Rias in the club lounge. Most of the others had gone to their rooms in the dorm wing. Rias lingered by the window, staring at the moonlit courtyard. Issei approached softly, uncertain if she wanted company. She glanced at him, eyes shadowed with worry. Hey, he replied, keeping his voice gentle. "Everything okay?" She let out a soft sigh. "I'm just thinking about tomorrow." About Riser's arrogant face, his sense of entitlement. A flash of anger crossed her features. "He acts like I'm already his. I hate it." Issei stepped closer, heart aching at her vulnerability. "We'll show him otherwise." She turned, looking up at him. "I know, still, if we fail." He silenced her by gently taking her hand. "We won't," he said firmly. "I won't let that happen." Emotion flickered in her eyes. "You've already done so much for me. Fought Freed, faced Raynare, and now risking yourself in a rating game that devils train for years to master." He swallowed, remembering the near-death experiences. "I'd do it again." They stood there, breath mingling, tension crackling. In that moment, he wanted nothing more than to promise her the world, to guarantee victory. But all he could do was swear to fight with everything he had. She slowly leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to his lips, full of unspoken gratitude and yearning. He returned it, hands slipping around her waist, drawing her closer. For a moment, the weight of tomorrow lifted. When they parted, her cheeks were flushed, eyes bright. "Thank you, Issei," she whispered. He stroked a thumb across her cheek. "Get some rest. You'll need all your strength to put that jerk in his place." A shaky laugh escaped her. "Right, early morning departure for the rating game." At dawn, Grafia appeared to escort Rias and her peerage plus Issei into the underworld staging grounds. The group gathered in the Orc Lounge, each wearing their battle attire. Issei stuck to a simple but sturdy outfit that wouldn't hamper his movements. Asia wore a modified Kuo uniform with protective runes. Akeno had her usual shrine maiden style, Kaneko her cat-themed martial gear, and Kiba was in lightweight armor. Rias stood at the center, regal in a crimson and black dress coat. Grafia led them in forming a circle. "We'll teleport to the designated arena. The Phoenix peerage will be waiting." Tension gripped them all. Issei felt his draconic power stir in anticipation. He reached out, clasping Asia's hand for reassurance. She squeezed back, expression determined. In a flash of magic, the old school building vanished from view. Underworld, the rating game battlefield. They appeared in a sprawling imitation of Kuo Academy grounds, crafted through devil magic. Grafia's voice echoed from unseen speakers, announcing the start of the rating game. On the far end, Riser Phoenix stood with a large peerage, at least a dozen members. Mostly female devils dressed in sleek combat gear. Riser himself had fiery orange hair, eyes brimming with confidence. He spotted Rias across the courtyard and smirked. "Rias, my darling, you should have just accepted our union gracefully. Now your peerage will face humiliation. Rias's eyes narrowed, disgust evident. Don't call me darling. Issei clenched his fists at Riser's arrogant tone. He could feel the thick presence of phoenix flames around Riser. Regeneration and flight would be major issues. Graphia's calm voice resonated again. On my mark, the rating game between Rias Gremory and Riser Phoenix shall commence. The objective: eliminate all opposing peerage members or force them to retire. The winning team's master claims victory and any associated stakes. Riser's laugh carried across the field. Let's see if your ragtag group can handle the Phoenix flames. Begin. The game started in an explosion of movement. Riser's pawns and knights rushed forward, wings flaring with phoenix fire. Rias's group scattered, each member taking up strategic positions. Kiba raced into the faux school building to pick off stragglers. Kaneko guarded Rias's flank. Akano ascended to bring lightning from above. Asia stood behind protective wards. And Issei? He charged straight for Riser, aura blazing. Because if there was one sure way to end the match fast, it was to take out the king first. Riser's eyes glinted in amusement. A mere human? This'll be fun. Issei's roar filled the air as his draconic aura erupted, the final showdown for Rias's freedom unfolding in a swirl of flames, destruction magic, and unwavering determination. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5, approximately 8,000 words, broken into concise, fast-paced scene segments. The rating game against Riser unfolds with cinematic action, emotional stakes, and the deepening of Issei's draconic powers and relationships. Underworld's simulated Kuo Academy rating game commences. A hush swept the battlefield as Graphia's clear voice echoed over an unseen PA system. The rating game between Rias Gremory and Riser Phoenix now begins. Victory is determined by eliminating the opposing team or forcing the king to retire. Sunlight glittered over the vast replica of Kuo Academy, built by devil magic in the underworld. At one end, Riser Phoenix stood with his expansive peerage, nearly a dozen devils in sleek combat gear. Flames licked the air around him, the famous phoenix fire that made the Phoenix clan nearly impossible to kill. At the other end, Rias Gremory and her smaller peerage gathered. Akano, Kiba, Kaneko, Asia, and Issei formed a tight circle around their crimson-haired king. The tension was palpable. Rias's freedom hinged on this fight. If they lost, she would be forced to marry Riser. Issei's heart pounded with adrenaline. He could sense the raw potency of Riser's aura, but also the unwavering resolve in Rias's eyes. He inhaled, feeling the draconic energy stir like a coiled serpent in his chest. I won't let him take her. Riser's mocking voice rang out, carrying across the courtyard. Rias, my darling, do spare yourself the humiliation. You can't possibly. She cut him off with a sharp glare. Don't call me darling. Let's settle this. Graphia's calm announcement resumed. Players, to your positions. Begin. Initial strategy: splitting the battlefield. Rias, exuding confident leadership, directed her peerage through telepathic communication. Kiba and Kaneko took the main building, aiming to whittle down Riser's numerous pawns. Akano soared above the courtyard to provide ranged lightning support. Asia stayed within the replicated Occult Research Club building, weaving protective barriers and preparing healing spells. Issei remained with Rias at the front lines, determined to face Riser head-on. While many devils used cunning or illusions, Riser's approach was brash. He dispatched 6 of his peerage members in a frontal assault: pawns, rooks, and knights brandishing flaming swords or summoning swirling embers. Rias launched orbs of demonic destruction, each sphere crackling with lethal power. Issei advanced beside her, red-black aura flickering at his fists and forearms. Riser observed from a distance, a smug grin twisting his lips. Let's see how you handle the Phoenix flames. Clash in the courtyard: Issei and Rias versus Riser's subordinates. Kiba dashed away into the main building, accompanied by Kaneko, leaving Rias and Issei to confront the half-dozen foes in the courtyard. These devil warriors spread out, aiming to surround Rias's kingpiece. Stay close, Rias warned Issei under her breath. These ones can combine their flames. Before she could say more, a wave of orange fire whooshed toward them. Issei lunged forward, calling on his draconic power. The flames parted around his swirling aura, though he grimaced at the intense heat. He retaliated with a crushing punch that shattered the stone tiles underfoot and sent the nearest enemy sprawling. Rias, capitalizing on Issei's opening, hurled a sphere of destruction at another attacker. It engulfed the unfortunate devil in swirling crimson energy, forcing him to teleport out in a forced retirement. 2 down, 4 to go. The remaining subordinates fanned out and attacked in tandem, streams of phoenix fire merging into a blazing inferno. Issei braced himself, arms raised, aura flaring red-black. Rias added her own magical shield. The combined barrier shimmered under the onslaught. Together, Rias urged. She poured more demonic power into her shield. Issei felt his aura resonate with her energy. A surge of confidence bolstered him. With a shout, he unleashed a draconic roar. The shockwave disrupted the flames, sending them spiraling harmlessly overhead. Then Rias launched another orb, forcing the subordinates to scatter. One tried to retreat. Issei dashed after him, landing a devastating kick to the chest. The devil vanished in a burst of light, teleported out of the match. Another advanced on Rias, sword wreathed in flame, but she disintegrated him with a close-range blast of her signature power. In mere moments, only a single Phoenix Knight remained, panting and cornered. Recognizing he was outmatched, he tried to flee. Rias permitted the escape, focusing on bigger threats deeper in the arena. Riser's mocking laughter echoed across the courtyard. Entertaining, but trivial. You barely dented my peerage. Issei clenched his fists, glaring at Riser. We're just getting started. Pav shift Kiba and Kaneko in the school building inside the simulated main building. Kiba and Kaneko navigated the winding corridors to locate Riser's scattered pawns. The illusions of classrooms and hallways were eerily lifelike. Kiba paused, pressing an ear to a door. He whispered to Kaneko, 2 auras behind this door. Possibly pawns or a bishop. Kaneko nodded, stoic as ever. Let's go. They burst in. Flames flickered as a pair of devils turned to face them. One was a bishop, already muttering a protective incantation, and the other a rook with flaming gauntlets. Without hesitation, Kiba lunged, demonic sword flashing. The bishop's barrier flared, deflecting the first strike. The rook dashed forward to counterattack. Kaneko stepped up, blocking the blow with her fists cloaked in devil energy. The room became a whirlwind of sparks, steel, and raw physical might. Kiba spun gracefully, focusing on the bishop to disrupt spells. Kaneko hammered the rook with powerful strikes, each blow forcing him back. Over the next few exchanges, they methodically broke the bishop's defenses. Finally, Kiba's sword struck home, forcing the bishop to vanish in retirement. The rook, now alone, tried to channel stronger flames. Kaneko seized the opening, launching a devastating uppercut that cracked the floor beneath him. He staggered, dazed. Kiba's blade came down an instant later, finishing the fight. Another forced retirement. The pair exchanged nods, quietly congratulating one another. We should hurry, Kiba said. Riser's main force might be heading for Rias. Kaneko gave a curt nod, bounding toward the exit. Pav shifted Kano in the skies above the replica of Kuo. A Kano glided on devil wings, scanning for potential threats. She spotted Riser's bishop and a cluster of pawns trying to flank from the rear. A smirk touched her lips. Not on my watch. Lightning crackled in her hands, swirling violet arcs that illuminated her shrine maiden outfit. She dropped into a dive, summoning a thundercloud overhead. The unsuspecting foes froze at the sudden roll of thunder. The Kano unleashed a rain of bolts, each spear of lightning forcing devils to scramble for cover. One got caught in a direct hit and retired immediately. Another tried to counter with small bursts of flame, but it fizzled against Akino's control of the storm. She let out that signature lilting laugh. So you thought you could sneak around and surprise us? How naughty. Her second barrage finished them off, sending 2 pawns and the bishop out in forced retirements. Only a lone devil, trembling, managed to flee. Akino considered chasing but sensed stronger auras clashing near the courtyard. Riser must be making his move. Folding her wings, she darted back toward the center, lightning dancing around her fingertips. Confrontation. Riser joins the fray with a large portion of his peerage eliminated. Riser Phoenix decided it was time to fight in person. He strode across the courtyard with regal poise, flames wreathing his body. Behind him, his younger sister Revel Phoenix, a bishop, and a single rook remained. Rias and Issei, having dealt with lesser foes, now faced Riser's direct approach. Kiba and Kaneko emerged from the building to join them, while Akano landed gracefully behind Rias. Asia stayed further back, watchful from a safe vantage point. Riser halted about 20 meters away. "You've done better than I expected," he conceded, voice dripping with condescension. "But playtime's over. You can't best true Phoenix power." He raised a hand, conjuring a massive torrent of phoenix flame that spiraled upward in an infernal column. The heat washed over them, forcing Kaneko to shield her face, and Kiba to brace himself. Rias's eyes narrowed. "Don't underestimate us." Akano and Kiba peeled off to engage Revel Phoenix and the Rook, leaving Riser to Rias, Issei, and Kaneko. Riser smirked, eyes gliding over Issei. You're not even a devil. Yet you stand by Rias so fiercely. I'll enjoy breaking your spirit." Issei's chest pounded with fury. He summoned his draconic aura, red-black energy crackling around him. "Talk all you want. I'm not letting you take Rias away." Riser released a bolt of flame. Issei roared in response, letting his aura clash against the searing heat. Pain seared his arms, but he channeled raw power to disperse the flame. "He's strong, but I've faced worse," Issei reminded himself, remembering Fried's mad strikes and Reinare's lethal holy spears. Rias targeted Riser with a sphere of destruction magic from the flank. The crimson orb collided with his chest, blasting him off his feet. Dust churned in the air. Issei's heart leapt with hope. That was a direct hit. But a moment later, Riser coughed, rising from a crouch. The flames around him surged, mending his scorched uniform and healing wounds. "Tisk, tisk. My Phoenix regeneration is far stronger than you realize." Rias pressed her lips together, frustration darkening her features. He can heal even from direct hits. Kaneko, seeing an opening, lunged behind Riser, landing a crushing blow to his back. He staggered, but again, flames licked across his body, repairing the damage. Snarling, Riser unleashed a wave of fire that sent Kaneko flying backward. She slammed into the ground with a cry of pain. Issei darted to her side, checking her injuries. Through clenched teeth, she murmured, "I can keep going." Issei felt his rage spiking. He glared at Riser. "This regeneration is insane. We need a strategy, Rias." She nodded, stepping close. "We have to overpower him in a single, decisive strike. Dragging it out plays to his advantage. I'll charge my ultimate destruction blast, but I need time." Issei squared his shoulders. "Leave that to me. I'll keep him busy." Shodan Issei versus Riser. Rias maneuvered around, focusing on gathering as much demonic power as possible for a finishing blow. Meanwhile, Issei advanced on Riser, aura blazing brighter than ever. Time to give it everything. Riser laughed, flames swirling. "You think you can hold me off alone? Watch me," Issei spat, surging forward. A swirling pillar of red-black power enveloped his arms. Riser answered with a torrent of phoenix fire. The two energies collided in a deafening explosion that shook the courtyard. Boom! Stone tiles shattered under the impact. Heat washed over Issei, scorching his clothes, but he refused to back down. Grunting, he mustered more draconic might. Pressing through the flames, he managed a powerful punch that connected with Riser's jaw, snapping the devil's head back. Staggering, Riser coughed, flames swirling to knit bruises. He steadied himself. "Impressive, but as long as my fire burns, I recover." Issei's mind raced. He can heal from anything short of total obliteration, if I can push him to Rias's final blast. He launched a flurry of strikes, each blow forcing Riser on the defensive. But with every impact, the Phoenix's regenerative flames flared, slowly erasing the damage. Riser countered, landing a flaming uppercut that sent Issei skidding across the ground, arms splayed. Pain radiated through Issei's torso. He felt the edges of his consciousness waver. "Not yet," he commanded himself, heart pounding. He thought of Rias, Asia, the entire peerage. "I can't lose." Somewhere behind him, Kaneko recovered enough to rejoin the fray. She sprang at Riser, distracting him with a barrage of lightning-fast punches.